let's bleep snow day until the reveal.
I thought this was going out. Wait. We're here to talk about snow day, right?
No, dude, we're live. There's 1,000
Okay.
people watching right now.
What?
Live stream.
Yikes.
Welcome once again to Chill Filter, the podcast where we drink whiskey so you don't have to, but you probably should. Hey, you probably are. Hey, that's why we like you. Before we get into anything today, we have a very special episode. We're going to get into why it's special, and I'm going to talk about some business as always. The business this week is Christmas episode's coming up, and that is a fun gift sharing episode. If you want to be a part of getting gifts and giving gifts, just listen to recent episodes and you'll find out the details on that, or reach out at chillfilteredpodcast@gmail.com, or just check out our Instagram and hit us up on Instagram. And then secondly, Secret Sampler is live. We are making our selections. By the time this comes out, our selections will be released soon, so be ready for that. It's our Secret Santa for samples. Secret Sampler. That's right. We coined it. We keep it. That's the business for this week. And then subscribe if you haven't. Smash that subscribe button. Sounds so weird to say out loud, so that I don't say it really out loud. Today, we got Found North. Not only that, we had to release this episode one day later because it hasn't even been announced until today, December 2nd?
7? 6?
December something.
Know,
whatever
Tuesday.
it is, whatever
It's
this
Tuesday.
day is, that's the day that this was announced by Found North, and we're going to make sure that happens. And then, without further ado, let's bring on one of our favorite returning guests and his sweet old brother. This is Nick and Zach Taylor. Welcome, guys.
Thanks,
Yo,
guys.
the Secret Sampler. Are you from
It's a good
Boston?
idea.
You sound like you're from Boston. Yeah, we got a Secret Sampler here. You sound like the guys that live across the street from Zach. Like you, hardcore boss. I
right.
like that.
Yeah. It works so well though.
Yeah,
it does. I like it.
Yeah.
go
So
ahead,
all of our
Brian.
listeners are tremendously familiar with Nick. Nick, thank you for coming back. But we're going to focus on Zach first. I would love to hear more about Zach. Now, I'm gonna sum it up what I know at least a little bit. From what I remember, Nick is more focused on whiskey in his mouth, and Zach is more focused on running the business, making the numbers work, and financially stuff. So first off, tell me if I'm right about that. And secondly, let me at least know, where are you in the whiskey world, though, Zach? Like, I know Nick spent a lot of time in Scotland, touring a bunch of distilleries and stuff. Like, how nerdy, how deep do you get in the whiskey world, too?
That's a good question, Brian, and it's fun for me to remind Nick and the rest of my team that I do know a lot about whiskey, because they forget that we've now been in the industry for 8 years. Nick and I have. So at this point, I am pretty deep. Had to show the guys that I still had it. We did a triangle test at our last team get together with Snow Day and another pour that you're actually doing. And I did it on the nose in about split second. So I like to think I'm more involved in whiskey than I really am in terms of production, to be honest. It's really Nick and the blending team. But I am the very fortunate beneficiary of getting to try things first. And in terms of whiskey, Brian, I mean, I and Cole, I do at this point know a ton about it, and I think I'm pretty deep into it. So it would be hard to out-geek me at this point, believe it or not. But that's credit to what I've learned from the people I work with, for sure.
Nice.
You did answer a deep ADL, Alberta Distillers Limited question earlier, so
Believe I corrected Nick. In fact,
yeah, exactly.
I want that on the
That shows
record.
a lot. Yeah,
that's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, I think talking about Nick as only the whiskey guy would certainly be more underselling his role than me as only the business guy, because he's super involved in all our operations. I mean, he's basically our COO and many other things as well.
Oh, that's so funny. It's obvious that we actually like each other. Like not every brother who works with another brother really actually likes working with each other. Because I was about to jump in and say, I think for us, one of the things that we always think about is how we sell the whiskey and how we present it and all of these different pieces of it are very much a part of the product itself. So I think sometimes people really bifurcate, like, here's the whiskey and here's like the process of sales and communication and all of the other pieces of this. And we see those as very much overlapped. And so much of that piece is Zach. And I would say Zach knows more distilleries and brands and companies and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And really, like, not just the business side, but the actual mechanism of how brands present themselves than I do. 100%. Like I may still have a little bit of an edge on him on like the actual geeky technical stuff, but as far as like the actual branding itself, which we see as very much interlocked with the product, Zach knows a lot more than I do.
Nice. And so, like, what is it about your backgrounds? I guess even both of you, but start with Zach at least. What do you feel like got you to the point where Nick is telling me now that you're a little more ingrained with other distilleries and things like that?
I really think what Nick was getting at there is we are a extremely product centric company. So like when I go to do my best work, when I get a couple of quiet days on the weekend and I'm really digging in, I'm not like running financial analysis. That's something I do because the company has to do it. But what I'm really doing is thinking about what products should we release next year? What are the gaps in our supply that could really make our whiskey better? How are we doing the best we can do operationally in order to bring everything we can to making the best whiskey possible? So I think that it's a focus on product for me. And when I say product, the most important thing by a mile is the whiskey, but it also includes things like the name, things like the packaging, things like how we get it to customers. You know, we're in a fortunate position where a lot of our products have more demand than supply. So how do we work that out so that people aren't frustrated with the process? How do we keep them sticking with us through that period? And Snow Day obviously is a part of that. So I think that is where my real focus is, more than like what you would traditionally think of as sort of business, you know, which is like negotiations and finance and stuff, which I do, but it's not what I really care about the most, I think.
Let's bleep Snow Day until the reveal.
I thought this was going out. Wait, we're here to talk about Snow Day, right?
Yeah, dude,
right.
We're live. There's 1,000 people watching right now.
We're live stream.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, and also probably the title of the YouTube video should say Snow Day because we want people to be able to.
Thank God, guys, don't mess with me like that.
That's great.
Leaked.
Yeah,
no,
Zach.
Honestly,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what I was going to say is like I think the supply side of this is always goes really sort of under the radar. Like, you don't just have access to whatever you want. You have to go get it. And that's financially, that's actually locating it. That's figuring out what we need. And Zach is in charge of all of that. There's no found north. not just like the brand. There's no whiskey without Zach. Like, it doesn't exist without Zach.
Yeah. And we will definitely dive more into questions like that. I've got, a bunch of sourcing questions and things like that too. But keeping it a little more personal for now still, Zach, love for you to just rattle off a couple like distilleries. Like when I think of Nick, I think of Gordon MacPhail, which is not a distillery, right? They're just it's an NDP source blending,
right? Independent bottler.
Yeah, independent bottler. But anyway, Zach, like, give me a couple, like when you some of your favorite whiskeys. Just start rattling off distillers, bottles. Any favorite bottle ever? What have you gotten?
Well, my favorite bottle ever was when we were just starting this whiskey journey, and we were in a restaurant with our parents celebrating. And we walk around the corner, and in this like corner display are these 1960 Karyazawas. And we're like, are you kidding me? And yeah, Nick's got it there. The Karyazawa 1960. There was two of them. There was an
Oh,
ex
wow.
bourbon and an ex sherry.
Wow.
One was a 1960 and one was like a 1963 or something like that. And we asked about them, assuming it would be like 10,000 to pour.
Yeah.
So not quite, but like some absurd number. And they were like,
Right.
"Oh, we're not sure. We think, I don't know. How about like 60 a pour or something like that?" Which is less than, I mean, if you just took that in pours, you could resell it for like 50x. And we had them and they were absolutely stunning. I mean, they were just like mind-blowing whiskeys.
That's awesome.
And it was just cool. The whole experience was cool, you know, sort of serendipitous. We just stumbled upon it. So that was pretty special. I would say in the American whiskey space, I mean, I think one of the coolest early whiskeys that I had was actually, Nick, the single barrel you did of barrel bourbon,
Nice.
Barrel Craft Spirits now. But I
Barrel 13,
admire them.
literally.
I think
Nice.
like you see a lot of blenders or NDPs that find an early source of whiskey that's really successful and people love it, and then they sort of tail off. And I think one of the things that's been really impressive about Barrel for my palate is they've been pretty consistent for a really long time. And they are blenders as well. So I've had a lot of great barrel expressions that I really enjoy as well.
Yeah,
I imagine
awesome.
that's how you guys got a little connected with Chris. Is that right?
No,
Not really.
predates
That's
Gordon
actually just
McPhail.
that's kind of just coincidence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gordon
Okay.
McPhail.
Yeah.
Chris was the global brand ambassador for Gordon McPhail when I was working in retail.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was Chris is a badass. Chris was the youngest keeper of the Quaith, which
That's right.
Nobody knows what the fuck that is. But basically, like the Scotch Society, this is the SWA, the Scotch Whiskey Association, or whatever they call themselves. Basically will give out a title. It's the keeper of the Quaith, and you have to. I think you have to spend like 5 years, not just promoting Scotch, but being like a positive force for the entire category. And Chris, when he was named a keeper of the Quaith, was actually the youngest ever.
That's so cool.
And he was at Gordon McPhail, and he and I were just totally vibing when I was working in retail, and that's how I met him originally. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nick, in the past we've talked about girl dad stuff. I was curious how's Aurora?
Yeah.
Oh, Aurora has the hoof. No, that's what I call hand, foot, mouth for.
Rough.
Yeah,
the hoof.
My
Just
daughter
like
went through it
cattle
like
get
3
hoof
times in 4 months.
Dude, this is the second time she's got it in 2 months. Oh my god, it's the worst. It's the worst. She's been up.
Girl.
She's been up all night for 4 straight nights. It's been. We've been doing the tag team thing. I took the first shift last night and let Alex just sleep from like 7 to midnight, and then very happily I was like, I have a podcast tomorrow. So you're gonna have to tag in at midnight.
That would never.
No, I'm kidding. No, my wife can basically literally sleep on and off on a dime, which I can't do. So if you wake me up in the middle of the night, it's like 90 minutes before I fall back asleep. Whereas she's like, oh, I'm awake. Oh, I'm asleep. So she's a little more flexible. It's like, yeah, I'll sleep for 5 hours and then take her for a couple and then sleep for a couple more. I can't do that shit. So no, yeah, so she's great. She's absolutely enormous.
Nice.
She's so big. She's so big that she has to go to the higher daycare class because they're afraid she's going to squish the munchkins that are in her class. She weighs at least twice as much as the kids in her. She's a 30-pound, 15-month-old. Which if you have a
that's
baby,
like Brian's.
you get
daughter,
it. If you don't, you're like, I don't know why that's important. Yeah, she's a monster.
Dang, Emma,
Brian's daughter is like super tall for her. Like percentile.
I think she's still around 26 pounds, but she's always like 99th percentile height. And like Sam and I are really tall. Sam's like 5'10", I'm 6'4". How tall are you, Nick?
I'm not that tall. I'm 6'1". I'm not that tall.
Oh,
and
that's
Alex
not short though.
This baby is 15 months old and can open doors because she can reach the doorknob and just open.
Not only that, but
you know how much of a problem that is. She literally, her favorite thing to do is go up to the stove and just turn the gas on. and I'm like Aurora,
Yeah.
and she's like, and I'm like, no,
That's my second daughter.
Watching you. Yeah.
stop.
Oh man, that's great.
That's
It's
so
funny when
funny.
they know it's something they're not supposed to be doing, because they will watch you the whole time they're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, 100. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
God,
and I got girl number 2 on the way in 2 months.
Hey,
Whoa!
Let's go.
Yeah,
Girl
congrats.
dad.
Yeah.
No, and Alex, we
Life.
got the gender, and Alex was just immediately was like, no.
Oh,
Like, she
rough.
wanted a boy so bad. She was like, they're both gonna hate me. And I was like,
Maybe with that
Whatever.
attitude, yeah.
No, it's been awesome. It's been really awesome. I'm
When
I'm
is
excited.
second one due?
Jan 22.
Are you gonna call her Cinderella?
Cinderella. No, Lily. We already have a name. Aurora and Lily.
That's really sweet. I love
Oh,
that name.
I have no boy names that I like. The only boy name I like is Zach.
Yeah.
I know.
Goodness.
I know.
Zach Jr.
Now,
Honestly, go for it. I like it.
Yeah, awesome. Zach, too. Yeah.
Zach,
Yeah,
are you married, kids, anything like that?
No, I am engaged, but not married
Nice.
and no kids.
That's cool.
Nice. I know Nick has a special bottle
I have
set
an
aside for
unbelievable
you.
bottle for Zach. When
Zach, I assume
mean-
Zach knows about this.
Yes, it's been sitting. I have a 1966 Glenbergie just chilling in my
It was
cellar
actually
here for him.
part of the reason why he had the motivation to go ahead and get married was because
It's
of
not
that.
a
I know.
small factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I've had it
Puts
for
you right
12
over the
years. I'm just saying.
Wait, you brought it back from Scotland, right?
I did indeed. And I've been
Wow.
just sitting on. No, I've actually only had it for 11 years. Almost 12.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so Emma's going through a phase right now. Just the best part is she will say hi and bye all the time. And like I've made this happen because like every time we walk into a room or building, I'm like, hi, and I like grab her little hand and I'm like waving it and I'm like, hi.
And then they figure it out. They figure it out
She-
fast, right?
For
Mhm.
sure. And now it's like it's kind of situational more than it is person based, because even if there's no one around, when we leave the daycare, she's going, bye.
Oh.
Bye.
Does she say it before she's so Aurora says bye, but only once she's out of earshot. You're like, say bye, and she's just like, and then you're like 100 yards away, and she goes, bye, and you're like, you do
Oh, that's
not get
great.
it, but that's
Aurora
kinda-
sounds a lot
yeah.
like my second daughter.
Fine.
My second
Yeah.
daughter
Does-
pulled down the Christmas tree yesterday, for the record. So maybe that'll give you a hint
Yes.
of what my
So
second
two
daughter
favorite
grades
things
like.
my daughter does are so she knows all the like barnyard animal sounds. I've taught her 2 things. Everything that she's good at is my wife is responsible for. But I've taught her 3 things.
Mhm.
The first 2 are the ones I'm really proud of. So she knows all the barnyard animals. So you can say like, oh, what does a cow say? Like she learns that in school. So
Mhm.
you're sitting there and you're like, what does a cow say? And she goes, moo, and all that stuff's adorable. And then I go,
Awesome.
what does a jaguar say? And she goes, rawr.
Oh,
Best thing ever. The second is
Oh, I
I've
love
taught
that.
her to wink,
oh,
I
that's
wink at her.
great.
and she winks, which is
Does-
glorious.
Oh,
Does
I
she
can't
actually
wait
do
to get to that point.
Just
She-
one eye?
No, it looks like
Yeah,
looks
okay,
like a bee stung her on the face. She's like,
Yep. Yep. That's so yeah, Emma does that, but it's like it's more of a slow blink. She'll just kind of like wince and like close both of her eyes at you. It's so great.
The third thing I taught her how to do was
Uh-huh.
put her hand in my mouth, which is why she currently has hand, foot, and mouth, because she puts her hand. We literally got a note from daycare. There was like, Aurora loves putting her finger in other kids' mouths. And I was just like, she also loves feeding dad at the dinner table, which is
Yeah.
probably why
Oh.
she goes. And now
Yeah.
she's, yeah. So
Oh man.
it's good.
Super cute.
We did have one write-in that didn't get asked last
Mhm.
time from our buddy Cody Clark, who wanted to know what's your favorite children's show to watch that doesn't drive you up a wall.
We don't let her watch TV at all. The
Totally fair.
the only thing she watches is and good Lord, like I know where she gets this from, but
Mhm.
when we want to clip her nails, she just refuses. and it's like the only time we show her videos, and we show videos of herself on the phone, and this baby is so vain. She like there's nothing she likes better than watching herself on video.
That's
and it's
great.
like she's like, where did she get that from?
So what Sam and I did, well, so same with Emma. She loves watching herself, and we got a video of her watching herself with one cell phone. I took a video with the other cell phone, and then I showed her that video and took a video of that one.
That's hilarious, right?
Well, and it ends up being like the first video, she's just going, ee, ee, and then the second video is the video going, ee, and then she goes, ee, and she's like talking to herself. And it's just like, and it's like video inception. Yeah, you should try that.
Serious meta at a really young age.
I know. That's great. I do.
Yeah. No, yeah. My daughters, they don't watch TV either. We do a once a month Disney movie. But every now and then I'll be watching a video of them, and then they can hear their little squeaky voice in it, and they're like, "Can I watch? Can I watch?" And of course, let them watch.
Totally.
Sure.
I should be clear. I let Aurora watch as much football as she wants.
Oh,
I want that child to be.
It's a big caveat.
The NFL. That is a big
Patriots,
caveat.
I imagine.
All football.
Nice.
I'm about as NFL upset. I might know more about the NFL than whiskey. It's really bad.
That's amazing.
Well, that.
We know that you were in like 8 fantasy football leagues last year.
That's right.
I'm in 20 leagues right now.
Oh my God, you're kidding? For real? How does that even
great.
work? How do
To
you
win
even
one of
work?
them.
How do you even work?
That's true.
It's like dogs. Like once you have one, like you just start adding dogs, and they're not that much more difficult.
That's fair. I do have one more family life question for both of you. I was curious, do either of your wives like whiskey?
Yes, my partner loves whiskey. She will tell you she was into whiskey before we met, which is
Nice.
fair. But she has whiskey every single night.
What's her go-to?
Fountain North.
Nice.
That's true. But
She's legally obligated.
She started with Scotch, so I've been getting her over into more North American stuff. But she likes Fountain North a lot. So, and I'm always excited for her to try our stuff off the bat and hear what she thinks. But she does drink literally every night a whiskey.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
not
which
Alex.
is cool.
She's Alex likes whiskey, but not at that level. Also, the whole pregnant and breastfeeding thing makes it hard. But no,
right.
she likes whiskey, but she's very hit or miss. She likes everything to be low acid. Like if we're tasting something, we're like, is this getting a little like tannic acidy? If I give it to her and she sips it, she'll just be like, no, and you're like, okay, cool. It's a nice little litmus test.
Nice.
Yeah, right. Easy way to tell.
I'd say the biggest change for Sarah's whiskey drinking is now if she drinks not cask strength stuff, she's like,
It's
little
drinking
bit.
water.
Yeah.
Is there any flavor there at all? Even come on.
Yeah.
Well,
Brian,
Cole, what do you think?
should we crack into this and then keep asking?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, okay. So let's send it to Nick. No. Yeah, let's send it to Nick. Nick, you have 20 seconds to describe this whiskey.
Are you
And
kidding?
it doesn't need to be notes.
20 seconds
just
to
whatever you
describe
want
this
to say.
whiskey. This whiskey, from a flavor standpoint, basically there are 2 themes to this whiskey. One is the earthy rye combined with fruit, and one is the sweet vanilla caramel combined with like baking spice. And it's 2 themes that are happening simultaneously across this whiskey. And it is our blending team absolutely flexing. Like we just literally are basically like, let us off the leash. Let us just make a whiskey that is singularly about hitting a theme and a flavor. And I think we nailed it.
Nice.
How's that?
So, give us
20 seconds exactly.
Yeah, I know, nailed it.
Nice.
I'm pretend I'm a listener listening to this, and I'm like, what the heck? I've never even heard of this before. Give me more of what should I expect this pour to taste like, experience wise. How is this compared to other Found North releases? What is, if you were to sum it up in a couple words, like this is the one that is juicy, jammy, whatever?
I would say this is the one that, if you have an outdoor fireplace and you've never lit it before because you've never had the right excuse, you pour this and you're like, get my Tinder, let's go. It's like this is a celebration of like the northern whiskey motif.
Nice. I love it. And so you hit on earlier, you said this is the blending team flexing. So you don't just let the team off the leash and they start grabbing stuff and this comes together. Like, how did this begin? Did somebody get an idea about something and they're like, please let me do this? Or how did it even begin?
I'll let Zach take the conceptual side of this because Zach's been working on this concept for 3 years.
Nice.
I think Zach, the 2015 rye just changed the game for us to make this possible, which is also Zach's baby. And then I'll describe how we sort of got there from a liquid standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's true what Nick said. We've been thinking about this whiskey for 3 years. I actually went back and looked at our text threads, and we have texts about this in 2022 in the winter. I remember thinking about this on a walk in the woods in New Hampshire. I was talking to Sammy, our head of blending, and also our lead designer and does a lot with sort of packaging and naming. And we were just like so into this concept. When you have a brand, you noodle. Like you sit around and you go like, what are cool names? What are cool ideas? And you just do this over and over and over and over. And it runs through your brain when you're sleeping and when you're taking walks and stuff like that. And we were just enamored with Snow Day. Like of all the names, of all the concepts, like it just had this nostalgic resonance with us around snow days living in the North. Like just the feeling you get when there is a snow day is just incredible. And honestly, when it comes to names, you really just hope that it's not taken. And like every name's taken. It sucks. And I was absolutely shocked that Snow Day wasn't taken. And we just loved the name and what it evoked for us. And we knew that with it being Snow Day, we wanted it to be a winter whiskey, which we wanted to make anyways. Like you can see Found North there are some motifs that are very, very common in whiskey. I think Found North definitely for us is an expression of sort of the nature and the North and sort of an exploration and adventure. And so Snow Day fit right into that for us. And I think conceptually, we wanted to make a heavy rye-based whiskey that also had that sort of fruit to come round it out. And so I think that was sort of the starting concept, was to make a winter rye or very high rye whiskey that also had some sweetness that was really meant to be enjoyed in the cold, over the winter in the North.
Yeah. Tell me, Nick, you got something? No,
I was going to add to that, but I'm curious what the question is.
Tell me more specifically about the 10-year rye casks. These casks were Zach's baby. Was there a magical moment? You said, I think maybe you've been sitting on them for a while. Like a couple of years ago, did you taste these and you were like, holy crap, we have to buy these casks. We got to figure out something to do with them. I guess tell me more about those casks in particular.
You take that, Nick.
I think Brian, you've asked us to make rye forever. And this technically isn't a rye. This is 50% corn, 47% rye, 3% malted barley. To be fair, when we started making it, the intent was to make it a barley rye. But the reason we haven't made rye is twofold. One, we have people who are really fond of corn, and so we make that for them. But part of it is that like getting rye in large quantities that's of really good quality that isn't like cloyingly astringent and dry is actually really difficult. So we've been targeting sources of rye literally for years. It's something where it's like there isn't a rye that becomes available that we don't follow down the rabbit hole. We just usually don't buy it. It just usually isn't of the quality that that's at our standard. And so like I mean, we can get into the sort of nitty gritty, and Zach certainly can, of like what the whole sourcing process is like and how hard it is to basically find good sources, negotiate them to a reasonable price. Cause like, I think about this all the time where it's like, to a degree, Found North just makes whatever the fuck we want. To a degree, we're just like, we'll make it and we'll figure out how the pricing and everything is going to work. But there is a reality where it's like, if something costs enough where the bottle cost has to be like $250, there's a degree to which it's like, hey, if I'm in the market for a house and my budget's $1 million, I might walk into a $5 million house and be like, this is amazing, but I can't buy it. And there's a little bit of that with whiskey where it's like, the point isn't to make whiskey inaccessible. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that when we talk about how we're selling this whiskey. But I think finding this particular source that not only we had enough of to be able to actually make a reasonable sized release, but also where it could carry the blend. So the 2015 rye in here is 45% of the liquid. It's by far the most of any portion of this blend. It is the next highest portion is like, I want to say like 25% or something like that, represents like 25 total percent of the liquid. Finding we've tracked down 10, 11-year-old ryes in the past, but as soon as they become 40, 45, 50% of the blend, they're just too dry and acrid. And the old ones get over oaked so fast. Rye is not an easy grain to work with. And so the best ryes we often buy are in small quantities, are really in limited quantities, and are best used that way. And so I think like the whole process for us of going from a completely unknown, irrelevant brand when we started, a zero, right? Like no one had heard of us. We didn't have a brand name. We had no money, right? Like we had no reason for anybody selling us whiskey to actually sell us whiskey. Zach got us in the door, but then it has been years of building relationships to get us to a point where we have the liquid to be able to do something like this.
Yeah. And let's save the chat about Snow Day and nose and tasting notes and stuff for a bit, because I did just remember that Zach has to go here in about 30 minutes. But so I guess in that case, if you wouldn't mind, do talk about the sourcing a little bit. I have here a quote that I wrote down, memorable, from Nick here. Finding liquid to source and sourcing it in a way that's financially manageable is like searching for a needle in a haystack. I mean, sounds like probably even more so with ryes. But I guess tell me like about sourcing background with Found North. How has it evolved over the last couple of years? And especially, at the very beginning too, I want to know, like when you sourced your first barrel, what was that like? The truck came in and the very first ones come in. Like, tell me about that day.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a fun one. I mean, the very first time we found a product, not a product, a source of whiskey that we were excited about was honestly, I mean, this sounds hyperbolic, but I will never forget it. Like, it was incredible. It was the coolest feeling. Like, we had worked so hard on Found North specifically, but before that for years, trying to figure out what we could do that we thought would be meaningful and how we could make a product that we thought was genuinely terrific. I mean, like many years of uncertainty. And so I really think like the first time we tried something and it was a Hungarian aged rye. It was a rye and Hungarian oak, and it was super delicious and super funky and like had all the qualities that we wanted in a whiskey. It still wasn't complete. We didn't bottle that and say, okay, we're done. But it was the first thing that we had access to that really seemed exciting to us. And you asked about my whiskey depth earlier. I even then had enough whiskey depth to know when I tried that, like, let's go. This is something we should definitely pursue.
Nice.
And that was like many months into discussions with our first supply partner that provided us with Canadian whiskey. So it was not something where, sometimes like folks will say like, oh yeah, these guys had a smart idea. Just they can get older stuff in Canada and bring it to the US. And there is some truth to that, part of what we've done is sort of have a perspective on Canadian whiskey, but much more so was really finding and cultivating sources of supply that really were exceptional. And like, we do a lot to the whiskey. We manipulate the whiskey quite a bit, right? Like we bring it in. We have a very, very focused wood program at this point. We're bringing stuff in from Europe ourselves, dealing with all the importing, like picking out exactly what we want, going and smelling the barrels. We have very, very focused, aging regimens. We're very much more sophisticated than when we started in terms of blending. Like, we're doing quite a bit to the whiskey, but fundamentally, if you start with bad sources, it's very difficult. It's much harder to make exceptional whiskey. You could probably still make pretty good whiskey if you really know what you're doing, but to make really great whiskey, you need everything to be great. And part of that is getting inputs that are really going to be able to contribute to a layered, complex whiskey. And so so when we first tasted that, it was like, I literally remember where I was, and I remember the conversation with Nick, and it was really cool.
That's awesome.
I want to just to emphasize, like, Zach. So Zach and I started working together on the project that would become eventually Found North in 2016. And nice. Zach actually paid for me to go to Japan in August of 2016 to look at our first sources of whiskey. Before we had even agreed to start this company, Zach was like, if you think there's a good idea in Japan, Zach made a lot more money than I did before we started this company together. Zach was like, if you think there's a good idea in Japan, and I thought Japanese whiskey was really cool in the early 2010s and into the 2015, 2016. He was like, I'll pay for it, and actually sent me off to Japan to go to all of the Japanese distillers. And by the way, we found zero sourceable whiskey, right? Like that was our first foray. Zach paid for me to go on vacation in Japan. No, nice. but literally, like that's how it took. It took 5 years. four and a half, 5 years before we bought the first thing that we really actually sourced.
Yeah, nice. You mentioned finding the good barrels is difficult to do. How does an extremely small company with very little funds at the time find the best barrels?
It's a good question. I mean, man, there's multiple ways to answer that. I think part of it is knowing what you are looking for. Like we knew what kind of whiskey we wanted to make. Like we didn't know specifically, like, this is how it's going to taste, but we knew we wanted to make, I mean, again, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but we wanted to make game-changing whiskey. Like we were not interested in commercial, like we weren't like, oh, well, great. If we find a well-priced 8-year, we'll make that. If we find bourbon, we'll make that. If we find, like, we had a very specific understanding of what kind of whiskey we wanted to make and what our standard was for that. And so everything we did was in pursuit of that standard. And so I think, number one, we had a very clear vision. Number two, we got lucky and we showed up. The way we found our first partner was I was in France at a whiskey show looking for potential spirits producers to import while we tried to keep the lights on and figure out what we were actually going to do. And while I was there, I met with an individual who wound up being key to us finding our first partnership that delivered the whiskey that I just talked about. And that was really Nick. And I was like, man, I don't know. This is expensive. It's time consuming. Like, should I go there? And Nick was like, definitely go there. And Nick has a rule, which is always show up. And I think that like, so we were very prepared to get lucky, if you will. So like we knew what we wanted to make and we were showing up and we stuck with it for long enough and we kept to the standard that we started with such that we didn't prematurely start something that wasn't actually going to be that exciting. And so like, I think that mindset is really probably what can honestly, like, I think if you stick with it for long enough and you put yourself and you're in the industry and you're inundated and you're meeting a lot of people and like, you're thinking hard about what you want to do, like you have a good chance of sort of serendipitously winding up in the right place. And then from there, it was sort of luck and finesse. Like we just kind of had to convince people that we were worth paying attention to. And again, I think that comes down to having an authentic, you know, very enthusiastic vision, which I think we were able to sort of communicate to our partners and get them on board with.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if it matters or not, but we always, I think when we talk to partners in Canada, our vision was always to make really high quality stuff rather than sort of race to the bottom. And whether the sort of the financial side of those companies gave a rat's ass about that, I don't know. But it's a very much like personal relationships in this matter a lot. And I think one thing that, you know, and I understand why Zach's underselling it because like talking about yourself is weird. But Zach did an incredible job of just cultivating so many relationships, right? Just like being there, showing up, being thoughtful and polite and always asking. And like, it sounds silly, but it's just like, if you really can convince people that you're worth their time, they overlook the fact that we had no brand, no backing, and no money, which is a really hard thing to do in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. You know, as time's gone on and as Found North's gotten so popular, at the same time, I've seen other NDPs, you know, coming out with Canadian whiskey products too. You know, it seems like people are seeking out more Canadian whiskey barrels too as time goes on. Staying competitive, has that been difficult, you know, with like, has there been competition for other people desiring the same barrels you're sourcing, and what sort of relationship management does that take to stay ahead of the game, you know?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I would say there's sort of two layers of potential competition. One is on the supply side, of course, and one is on the demand side. I would say we don't spend a ton of time thinking about either one. And that's not because we're confident that we're going to outperform competition or anything like that. It's just that we believe that if we make a great whiskey, like we'll just continue to have an audience. Because the reality is people don't own like one or two brands. They buy a ton of different stuff. And so like we always sort of don't worry too much about it. Certainly. Yeah, exactly. Look at your back shelf. Like I think it's cool if other people make great Canadian whiskeys, that's awesome. I would also say our competitive set is definitely more bourbon. So we are, you know, like 95% of our customers drink more bourbon than Canadian whiskey, at least, maybe even more. So we really are, and you know, we're American. Like we come from an American whiskey background. So I think that bourbon or rye, I should say, but American made products. So you know, I think we definitely like, there's a sort of fun competitive side where it's like we want to make stuff that people who are interested in the very best whiskeys are jacked up about our whiskeys. That gets us sort of competitive juices flowing where we're like, we want to keep making things that people are super excited about, but it's probably less relative to others and more relative to the reaction of previous whiskeys we've released, is how I think about that. And then on the supply side, like, I think we're very lucky in the fact that we were pretty early to this concept. Like we really, there are other people doing Canadian, but there's really not anybody I can think of in the American NDP space who's focused on Canadian. And we're super focused on it. And I think that is limiting in ways, but it's also a huge advantage. And I think that as a result, we've able to assemble a really, really deep set of whiskeys that we're more focused on how do we cultivate these to be as good as they can be in the future than we are about like how do we go scramble to find more stuff. Like we have a ton of whiskey, either that we own or in contract to buy, that we are manipulating to make better in the future, more so than we're worried about, hey, batch 12 is coming up, let's go find some cool barrels. Like that's not at all the case. Like we already have our whiskey planned for years. So I think on that side, we used to worry about it a lot. Now because of how our position is, we are less worried about it. We don't worry about it really.
I think
Nice.
I think for us, we saw a lot of brands that we've seen a lot of brands come and go because they started with a great source of whiskey and then they couldn't get more of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Right. Like
For sure.
it's not available, whatever. And we were thoughtful about that immediately.
Yeah.
We didn't get the cart before the horse, so to speak. We were like, if we're going to do this, we want to be able to keep doing it. And so I think that has been a huge I wouldn't say advantage, just a boon for the brand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. That keeps us up at night.
Yeah.
Like making sure that we can not, like we never ever want to fall off. Like you see that so often with people who source, they just fall off because they just can't get more of whatever it was that people liked off the bat. So yeah, I mean, that is something that Nick's point is we were focused on from the very beginning. And now, 5 years into the brand, I think we're in a good spot, but it's something that's kept us up nights for a long time.
Yeah. Other NDPs that haven't fallen off, I've noticed many of them go the route of once they explode in popularity and have some great products, they come out with some sort of small batch product. Now, I get there's value to that because now you've got a mass produced, if you will, something that's always on the shelf. So people will see it when they're wandering around a store. But I was curious if you guys have thought about that, pros and cons, both from the Nick side, and I'm generalizing, but the Nick side of, do I want to make this whiskey? And the Zach side of, does my company want to sell this whiskey?
So I think Zach thinks about the what you think of as the Nick side much more than I think about it.
Sorry to generalize. Yeah.
No,
that's fine.
no, that's totally fine. But what's interesting is I think like Zach and I started this company. I not to shortchange the people who've been involved, because Phil and Sammy were here when we started Found North. So like, but people are always curious because it's like, oh, there's just two co-founders and I'm the face you see 97-8% of the time. And so people get curious about like, what's the other brother's role in the company? And I think like what you're talking about is like a huge part of what Zach does. And a lot of what I do is like, there's an enormous amount of creativity that goes into this piece that you're talking about. And it's not my strength. My strength is when Zach says, hey, could we do this, or this? I then figure out whether we could. And then Sammy is actually doing more about actually making it later. I'm almost a middleman between the two of them a lot of the time, and other people involved in that. So I think you're in Zach's wheelhouse entirely when you ask that question, more so than mine.
Yeah,
I think it's a fascinating question, to be honest, Brian, both from a whiskey perspective for us, actually, and I can get into that, and from a what do we want this brand to be for people perspective, and then also, yeah, sure, from a business perspective too. But I think for us, genuinely, when I say this, like the business is make whiskey that people really make, amazing whiskey that people love. That's the business. Like the business will take care of itself if we do that, in my mind. And that's always been and that's worked for us. So we're going to continue with that philosophy. And so I think the irony is that most brands create shelfers, right? Products that are meant to be regularly available as a commercial strategy. Like let's make sure we have the shelfer so we can afford to make the really cool stuff. I would say it's ironically like it would be a bigger leap as a business for us to make a shelfer than to not, in a way, because that's not what we've been doing well for people. What we've done is make really, really cool whiskeys that have now become relatively hard to get and are not shelfers. They're ephemeral. Like you have one, it's done. There is no more batch 5. There is no more batch 8. There is no more Peregrine First Flight. Like those are toast, and they're not going to be repeated. So I think for us to make a shelfer is actually harder as a business, interestingly. And so at one, I'll present that perspective. The second thing is, I think if we want to make a shelfer, first of all, I don't think we'll ever, I don't put this as a contract, but I don't see us trying to make the same thing over and over again. It's just counter to what we do. So we might stylistically do something similar. Like we have a profile that we like that, we know that a lot of the whiskey we have in stock is going to work well for. And so we can sort of have thematic consistency, but we're never going to try to recreate the same thing where someone knows, hey, I love, Woodford Reserve Double Oak. Like I'm just going to get that. It always tastes the same. It always tastes exactly how I want. Like I don't have to think about it. It's a brand I trust to always deliver the same flavor. That's not what we are ever going to try to be. It's not suited to how we make whiskey, and it's not really what we're into. So that's never going to happen. But do we want to make a product that isn't lottery based, that people can buy, drink, and not feel like, hey, what's the secondary doing for this? I think it would be really cool. Like we would like to do that, but we're not going to do it just to do it. So the only reason we would do that is if we found that we had a concept we have this whiskey, we think it's incredible. There's enough of it that we can actually release this and people can buy it, and it's not going to be something that has to be lottery based. Would we do something like that? I think we would explore it. We think about it a lot, quite frankly. Yeah. But like I said, it would always be a whiskey first decision, which is how we do everything. So if we had a whiskey that we were like, you know what, this is amazing, and we can actually make a fair amount of it so people can actually get it to the extent they want to, and maybe like come back 2 weeks later and get another one, that would be awesome. And if we find a whiskey that works for that, I think we would consider that.
Yeah. The idea of how having a shelfer would be difficult for your business, I totally get it, but I think it kind of plays into the question, if I can keep grilling you for your last 10 minutes here.
Yeah, please.
The idea of like, how do you want the company to scale? How do you, like, what is your desired point of growth? Because if you wanted to just grow, you could figure out, you could put in the extra effort to have a shelfer that might fund more future capabilities and things like that. But if your desire to scale isn't that grand and you want to stick in the smaller niche area, I totally get that too. So where's your head at in terms of scaling?
Yeah, I would say it's a great question. And again, like these are the kind of things that are sort of business, but really they just define, what are we going to make? Who are we going to be? How are we going to talk to our customers? Who do we want to be involved in this journey with us? And so I think it's such a fundamental question. And it's one that Nick, me, Chris, Sam, Phil, Lauren, Daryl all think about a lot, because it really is something that we are sort of defining who we are going to be on the fly all the time. And so I think, to answer your question more directly, Brian, I would say, I think, in the landscape of whiskey, our goal is not to create a ubiquitous brand where it's everywhere. And it's just what people, associate with like, hey, I always drink this. It's all over the place. Like that kind of trusted, not really a thoughtful pour. Not that it's not delicious, but it's not something I'm like buying to contemplate. That's not really who we are. And I don't really see that changing. I think who we are is we want to make products with tremendous intentionality and care. And we want to keep inventing. We don't want to just create one thing that it's like, yeah, okay, everyone loved batch 5. So let's make a weeder that we can sell to 1 million people. That's not really how we have ever thought about ourselves. And frankly, it's just not really authentic to who we are and what we want to make. So I don't really ever see us being that brand. I think we can grow but still be a brand that has a level of intimacy with the people that are into Found North, where they kind of feel like they know us, they know what we're making, they know why we make stuff. They're kind of in it and they feel like it's one of their favorite brands. She gets it.
Dude, he muted at the last second, man. She was right there.
He's like, "Hi, Daddy. You know we're recording right now, Sugar Bear. Can I talk to you after?"
But yeah, Brian. So I mean, I think we've been pleasantly surprised by how many people there are that are into, I mean, like expensive high-end Canadian whiskeys. Like that's a market that no one really knows how big that is because it's just not really established. And luckily there's been enough people for us to feel that we have a business that is profitable, that we can sustain. And we're super excited about that. And I don't really think we need to like do a 180 with our plans there. I think that's who we are and who we want to be.
Nice. Yeah.
Do either of you guys ever have like an idea and the other one shuts it down?
Yeah, we really encourage that internally. We try to like Nick and I see eye to eye on things as a rule, and the people that we have partnered with that really are not like they are partners, and we have owners. Like we try to give, if we can, we try to bring people in as partners, and we've hired some amazing people in that capacity, and we encourage them to disagree, and we encourage each other to disagree because that helps us get to what we think is a better truth about things. Nice. So if otherwise it just gets to be an echo chamber and like we're missing things.
Good point.
So I think we have. I would say like I would say in one way we're probably the strength of Found North is diversification. No, sorry.
I was thinking about another one. It's one of our favorite movies.
My brother
it's from this super.
It's from this really niche movie.
The Man Who Knew Too Little, if anybody.
It's a Bill Murray movie from '94 or something.
Oh wow,
it's a really funny line in the movie. I think the strength of our company is everybody's gonna go watch that movie. Is that we're a 7-person team, and I think all seven of us, we have incredible alignment from a vision standpoint and incredible disagreement from an execution standpoint.
Yeah.
And those things, that combination is really great. As long as and I don't think anyone on our team feels uncomfortable disagreeing with everybody else. Like it can be 1-on-6 and that person will just be like, you all need to convince me why I'm not. And it's not intransigence, right? It's not just like intransigence for the sake of like, I think I'm right, so I'm right. It's just like, and it's amazing how often we will be locked in. Like 3 of us will talk about something and be like, we're going to sell this, but with one email. We're going to send one email. This literally happened. We're like, it's going to be one email. And then one person comes in and is like, why is this one email? This should be 2 emails. And this is why. We're going to send this email and this email. And then all of us are like, no. And then after half an hour, we're like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And it's like, you're so sure. It's like, oh, we've wrapped this piece of what we're doing up. We're so sure it's done. And then somebody disagrees and I don't know. I feel like
it's another reason why we won't scale, Brian, because we agonize over things for
we agonize.
Well, you've been agonizing.
Such a joke that's so true.
You've been agonizing
about
over
that shirt.
Yeah, you've been agonizing over merch for way too long, sir.
There you go.
That's a beautiful shirt that I want to buy.
That's actually hilariously fucking accurate.
Yeah, that's comically accurate.
Glencairn with the topographical map all the way around, please. That is all I'm asking for. How hard could it? No, I'm kidding.
Honestly, that's such a layup. That's got to happen. It's unbelievable we don't have that yet. Like
we're
around Glencairn, we got to do that. I agree.
Obsessiveness is great for making whiskey. It's not great for scaling a business.
Right. Fair. I do have one last question while Zach is still here. And it's just, after the last couple of years and the success of the last couple of years, does it still feel like 2 brothers just having fun and starting a business, or has it really gotten a more business focused with the level of effort and everything that goes into it?
Yeah, that's such an awesome question. I can tell you with utter sincerity that the fact that I get to work with Nick on this is what makes it worth my time. Like, I absolutely love it. And it just imbues everything with meaning in a way it wouldn't otherwise. So that is definitely true. I would say we have to be careful not to let business overtake the creative joy of what we do. And I don't think I don't even think it's business. I think it's just doing something for a long time. Like, we as humans, we just have this unfortunate thing where we just adapt to things and it becomes the new baseline, and you just sort of forget how awesome whatever it is, or how terrible, luckily, but on the awesome side, how awesome something is. And I think it takes a proactive mindset to say, let's remember how cool this is, and let's bring that with every single whiskey we make. And I think it honestly, like, we just did this with Snow Day, and we were just like, wait, hold on a second. Let's just remember how fucking awesome this is that we get to make this and we get to do this together. And that wasn't just me and Nick, that was the whole team. And it just gave us a ton of energy. And we were like, let's not focus on what we should do. Let's focus on what we want to do. What do we want this to be? What is the coolest expression of this for us? And I think, so Brian, it's not like, it is not, there is a reality of, I would say, let me say this. I would say every day, if you ask me, do you like what you do? I would say I absolutely love what I do. But if you ask me, are you enjoying what you're doing right this second? I would say 70% of the time, the answer is no, because there's a lot of things you have to do just to make something happen. Right. Like that's so how it is. But at a fundamental level, I absolutely love what we're doing. And I genuinely think that's how our entire team feels. We've never had a person leave. Everybody that's joined, and most people have joined at the very beginning, like, we're all in this. We love it. And I don't think it's gotten too businessy or too kind of lost on us how awesome this is.
Yeah.
Nick,
a rebuttal.
Zach and I have Zach and Nick days that we carve out, where we literally take a day off and just go do something ridiculous together, just to remind ourselves that we're brothers and have friends. A relationship outside of work.
Great. That is healthy as F, man.
Dude, you have awesome. No idea. Zach's 40th birthday was basically that. We went to. I
thought we were playing golf. I was wrong. No, for the first time in like 2 years.
Nice. No. But we went to Kimbrell Farms, which is just like a batting cage, bumper boats, mini golf, and hilariously, it has all of these things. And the two of us got obsessed with beating this one stupid arcade game.
That's great.
For like 3.5 hours.
Oh, I love it.
And that is so very, very much us.
Do people want to hear this? I don't know. But we're gonna go. Yeah,
that's great.
This is what it's all about, man. I have a specific memory just like that too. With my brother and I think some cousins. It was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles classic arcade game where 4 people can all play at the same time.
Yes.
Please tell me it was that one, Doug.
No, it wasn't that one, but that is sweet. I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan.
I mean, you guys' positivity is just amazing, and like Cole and I have individually dealt with other people in our lives that have just got us to the point today now where we want nothing but positivity and uplifting each other and never put the other down. And I'll leave you with a quote from Nick. Zach is my idol. He is freakishly talented as a business person. So yeah, really appreciate it. And I love that positivity, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm so sorry I have to duck out, but this has been blessed.
Yeah. It's all
Thanks
good.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And enjoy the pour off. No.
Yeah, I know, right?
You can't pour it out.
Right.
I'm gonna enjoy this.
We look forward to talking with you more in the future too, Zach.
Yeah, that would be great. Again. I would love that. Thank you so much.
For sure.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
All right. We're back from a pee break. And
how you doing? Wait,
so I just took my first sip. Wait, go ahead.
That's what you do when you know that you're going to keep talking for another 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When you know you're just getting rolling.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to Brian on our quick pee break after our quick pee break, and Brian was like, I've been sipping this. And I'm like, I haven't been sipping this. And now I did, and I love it.
Yeah, dude.
This is like I'm getting Christmas spice vibes, including a little pine tree action in here. This is good. I mean, I've said this probably every episode we featured Found North on, except for maybe one, and that was batch 10. In case you're wondering, Nick, they just keep outdoing themselves. I think it's just great.
Yeah. I started on Midwinter Night's Dram because I knew this was a port finish, blah blah blah, and supposed to be pretty high rye and everything, fairly high rye. Midwinter definitely comes across more rye. It comes across more dill, not prominently dill, but there's definitely that fresh grassy herbal on Midwinter, and that is not there on Snow Day. I will say, and frankly, I don't miss it because the thickness, the weight of that palate just blows Midwinter out of the water. I think the same port flavors are there. It's a little more juicy jammy on the Snow Day, but there is an element of yeasty, confectionery, rising dough smell that I get. Like I feel like I'm in a bakery almost, and there's like some like cinnamon bread action thing going on too with like strawberry jam. That's the world that I'm in on this.
I'm totally bummed that Zach had to go, because I think this, like, the concept of this whiskey was so much Zach's vision. Like, he and Sammy talked about this. He was talking about that years ago. And I think when we make whiskey, I think a lot of times it's really hard to describe what the creative process is, but we rarely have a destination. Like, this is very much a whiskey that we had a destination, and it's more like where we were trying to get, not the end point itself. It wasn't like, hey, we're trying, like, here's exactly the flavor profile that we want, but from how do we want you to feel about this whiskey? This is the embodiment of that. There's a synergy between the branding, the liquid, and the way we're selling this, that I think, in terms of, like, I always think the most recent thing we made is the best thing we've ever made. I think this is the best thing we've ever made. That's always how I feel, which is part of just the jazz of making whiskey at Found North. But, like, in terms of whether you think this is the best thing we've ever made or not, in terms of those three things just completely perfectly aligning, we've never nailed it like we nailed it with this whiskey. And it's funny you bring up Midwinter's Night's Dram, because like, and I don't mean this in like it used to be. Just when they first came out with that whiskey, man, did that capture my heart. You know what I mean? Like, the when they first I was just, and in the 2014, 15, 16 time period, like, High West was on a fucking heater. Like, they were just the Rendezvous Rye, the Boo Rye, everything they were doing was just like, it was outside the box. It was, and I think a lot of times people are like, oh, Found North is like Compass Box, or Found North is like Barrel Craft Spirits. I often think like, oh, Found North's got a lot of High West vibes, not exactly in the product, but just in like hey, we're going to blend 6-year with 16-year because we think it's good. You know what I mean? Not because, like, of anything else. But they definitely sort of captured my soul with that whiskey. And I think if Snow Day is going to get compared to anything, that's going to happen all the time.
On paper, on a spec sheet, like, obviously, it was the first thing I thought. It's
going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're not like, look, Angel's Envy did rye and port before. It's not like nobody's ever combined that grain and that finish. And there's a reason why it works, and we can get into that. But I think just like when we were looking at doing a really rye heavy whiskey for this particular wintry release, you nailed it right on the head, Brian. We were trying to age out of that profile, of that sort of dilly, overly green flavor. I always think of it as the color green. It's just that
Right.
rye can be a little green in the first 6 to 8
Grassy, I
years of
think,
its life.
sometimes.
Yeah, totally grassy, and I want to retain a little of that, but I don't want it to be the dominant profile of a rye forward whiskey. The problem, of course, is that rye is dry and astringent and gnarly. And the older it gets, the more it gets like that. And so you've got this like window where rye can be really magnificent, at least in reasonable volume. Look, we work with like 18, 20-year-old ryes all the time. One of them is in this whiskey, like, but we work with them at like 5%, and it can be an absolute battering ram. You don't have to worry about balance because you're only using it for 5% of the blend. If you want something to be 45, 50% of the blend as a rye, it's got to thread that needle of like, of having real. I think of rye spice as having two fundamental profiles. Rye spice has that like cinnamon sugar, winter spice, holiday spice, right? Like I know we don't, whatever whatever holiday you celebrate, I'm talking about like Christmas cake, what's called Christmas cake, whether that profile. That's one part of the rye spice. The other part of the rye spice is like black pepper, herbal tea, green. And I want to dial up the former and have the latter be in there, but not the star of the show. That's
almost an
that,
afterthought.
I don't want it to not be there. It's a fundamental part of rye.
Right.
But just like if you're gonna sort of turn the flavor knobs of rye, that was the very starting point, and that was kind of like a quote unquote deal breaker for us as we have tried to make this whiskey, because this is not the first time we've tried to make this whiskey. As we've tried to make this whiskey in the past, getting the rye where we want it has been impossible over and over and over again. Impossible. This is the first time it's possible, and whew, I love it.
Can you put some words to the impossibility? And so like where my brain goes first is we've got these rye components, we've got these corn components, let's blend, let's go 30-70, let's go 60-40, let's go 50-50. And then like as you kind of make your way in one direction, you realize this isn't just coming together the way that I expected. Let's just try again next year after we buy some other casks. So what does impossible mean?
Impossible means in the context of this whiskey, either tasting too young or too acidic. It's the simplest way to think about this. The ryes that age often well in good wood, out of that earthy green vegetal profile that's so pronounced in young rye, can so easily tip into tannic acid. And tannic acid is there's no tannic acid in this whiskey. I can say that with 100% confidence. And I'm really proud of that in this whiskey. There's no tannic acid. And what I mean by that is like, people think of tannin. And I think people think of three things, even if they're not categorizing it this way. There's tannin that is the good kind of tannin, which is like, it kind of grips the side of your palate in a really pleasing way, and balanced with enough sugar, you get that side grip where it almost is. It's where the flavor bleeds into the texture, right? Where you're like, wow, this flavor and this texture sleep together a lot, right? Like they have chemistry. Like these things like bleed in together into the sides of your palate, and they just snuggle up on the sides of your palate. And you're like, this is beautiful. Then there's tannin where it tastes like pencil shavings, which is the over oaked flavor that I hate, that we try to
Yeah.
avoid with everything we make.
Right.
The tannic acid is when you get that tannic flavor, but it comes up and it burns the back of your throat in the resolve, in the finish. It creeps back up into your palate. So rye that's been aged for a long time can really, really do that. And it can do that to a place where it's unfixable. And I hate the notion of blending as like fixing problems, but the reality is that blending is a real creative process. I could wax rhapsodic about it. I do it all the time. But if you really wanted to like dial in to, you want to take all the romance out of blending and you just want to get into like the mechanics of it, a lot of what you're doing when you're blending is finding ways to make the best part of the whiskey great and the worst part of the whiskey out of the picture.
More subtle. Yeah.
Right. And so like so many of the ryes that we have tasted, even a lot of the ryes that we've used, when they get out of the 10, 15, 20% range from a blend standpoint, they get so far in one of those unpleasant directions that you can't build the blend where that's the focus of the blend. It just won't work. You just can't, you literally can't do it. And the 2015 rye is a rye that we've been cultivating both from a purchasing standpoint, like just developing partnerships where we can acquire this kind of rye, but also from a flavor standpoint and waiting for it to really age into this profile where it's like, oh, we can really work with this. We can make this the feature. We can make this the feature component of the whiskey. And every time, Brian, you're like, make more rye, I'm like, I want to, but it's but I want a lot of things in my life.
Right.
Yeah. So
you
so that's how I would
said
describe it.
something. You said something that I want to pick on. You said,
Ooh.
cultivate this kind of rye. So I like, do you just mean that these were exceptional casks just in general, or is this kind of rye actually a different kind of rye?
No, I think it's I was yeah. So cultivate, I was talking about two things. One, I was talking about it from a relational standpoint, like what Zach was talking about earlier on about, and we were getting into this with competition with like, hey, are we seeing other people kind of encroach on our space? The reality is that we're really good partners. We're really good partners. This is some of the silliest things to say. And this is why I fucking love whiskey, because these little parts of making whiskey never get talked about. And if you like whiskey the way I like the NFL, where you want to like understand contracts, like I like understanding like contracts when it comes to team building. I like understanding comp picks. You want to get super nerdy? Like why when somebody gets signed as a free agent, does the team who lost that player, like what's the formula that tells them that they get a draft pick that's higher than it should be? And the teams that know how this shit works construct better rosters. Like that's how nerdy I get about whiskey.
Like there's a mini game in there.
Yeah, there's a mini game in there.
Side quest.
So you want to just like, do you want to really dig in for 2 seconds? We're never late on our bills.
Yeah.
And we make better whiskey because of that. Is that just the craziest thing to say ever? But it's true. Like,
but I mean, as it should be. No, that's how it should be.
We fulfill every single contract. We've never been late on a bill. We negotiate in amazingly good faith, and we're cash positive, and we're really careful about our cash. And this is stuff that Zach won't talk about because he doesn't like to brag about himself, but he's so fucking good at it. Nice. And as a result, we've talked to partners in Canada who just literally say, when something becomes available in our portfolio, and this happens for all kinds of reasons, they made too much of it in a year thinking one brand they make is going to do better than they expected, or whatever reason something becomes available, we're their first call. It took us years to earn that.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, so you want to make a 8,200 bottle release that's 45% rye or 47% rye, but it's 45% of this particular rye. Like, you need a really good source and you need a really good relationship. So that's cultivate on one side. It's like we've really cultivated that relationship. The other side of this is we've gotten really good at looking at something and saying, in 2 years, that's going to be perfect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is
there's some secret sauce in there.
There's
There's
a degree to which, and you know, I think like there's a cool aspect of this where when you talk to distillers who've been at the same distillery for years and years and years, they start to have instincts about it. It's hard to quantify, but they have instincts about whiskey where they're like, yeah, if we leave this in this cast type in this place, based on the fact that I've tasted so many whiskeys made from here and I've aged them so much, like I know that this is going to be delicious in 2 years. And you're like, how do you quantify that? And they're like, I don't know how to tell you how I know. I just know. I always was peeved by that. I was like, no, but you have to be able to explain it. Now I give that answer all the time. How do we know this rye was going to be perfect? We knew because we've been working with these whiskeys and these companies for a long enough time where it's like we knew that it was going to age into a really usable profile.
Yeah.
For exactly what we're trying to do with this.
That's cool.
Cole, thoughts on the pour, thoughts on the palate? Like,
yeah.
where you at with all this?
Well, I already did the ice pour and the water pour.
Oh, dang.
But on the the ice is good. It's not better though, in my opinion. But I put a little cube in my. It's surprisingly it got colder.
Yeah, that's weird. Nick might have to give us a thermodynamics lesson.
Yeah. Okay.
What
so when you take
happens
something
there?
cold and you put it into something that's warm,
okay,
they equilibrate. No,
it's like that movie with
gosh.
Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Was it Wesley Snipes in there or something like that?
Way better than my thermo teacher in college. Jeez. I did so Nick has a manager's proof on this, and that manager's proof, correct me if I'm wrong, is 1.25 mils and a 50 mil pour.
I'm doing it right now.
Nice. Anyway, I measured it out and I did your manager's proof, and I think I like the neat better. I think I'm team
You're fucking
neat.
Crazy.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what. It's okay. I thought that the water pour, the manager's proof, it turned the thick, doughy, like literally like rising dough in a bowl. If I were to put my nose up to it, that's the kind of a heavy backbone. What I was getting on this, that kind of went away, and it turned more into like a more dry, like a cracker, like a saltine cracker kind of cracker.
Graham cracker, saltine my ass.
Oh, well, so I was gonna say cinnamon too. So now that you said graham cracker, I'm like, hell yeah. With the port strawberryness was toned down a little bit too, but I think the finish is shorter.
Yeah, sorry.
On the manager. No, you're good. The finish is shorter on the manager's proof too, but the longer finish that I get on the neat pour is very cinnamon spice focused, and I love that almost like a ginger snap that's heavy on the ginger. So the corner of your mouth biting gingerness like lingers for so long afterwards, and I appreciate that on the neat pour.
I really like that. I don't want to take up all the airspace. Cole, what do you think?
No, I mean, in comparison, I also appreciate the neat pour the most. I did a few drops and then a cube. And the reason, and I hate to put this out there because but I don't, because it just shows up on the ice and water pours more so, is what I like to call a synthetic sweetness to the ice and water pours. That being said, the neat pour has none of that. It is a nice sweetness. I mean, honestly, it is subtle, but it is blatant to me as well. That the neat pour just reminds me of Christmas, and not in like a weird. We just randomly were at what was it, Bath and Body Works the other day, and I wanted to get the what do you call peppermint, like the candy cane candle. And my wife was like, well, I want the general Christmas candle. And I was like, okay, you're the woman, I'm gonna give you that one.
It's like you the man, but you the woman.
You the woman. Yeah, exactly. But this reminds me of that candle in some ways. It brings out cinnamon, like you said, that ginger snap kind of note. And even cloves. Like I'm getting light cloves and honestly a beautiful evergreen. Like I don't know if it's cedar or pine, but it is the perfect amount. And it's not, and like honestly, it's like 5% of the note, which is just right in my opinion. That cedary, piney note. This is subtly just Christmas. And it works perfectly with the name of like Snow Day, because it's like, oh, this is like perfect. Yes. But that being said, I do much more appreciate the neat than with water or ice. Yeah.
So I don't agree with either of you. No, I'm kidding. I thought you guys.
Boo this man.
Take him off.
In particular, the neat pour, the resonance of cinnamon on the finish on the neat pour is ridiculous. Like it just stays and stays and stays. What I love about the manager's proof is it creates a incredible mouth-watering experience on the side palates. I think the fruit comes out with the manager's proof in a way that a lot of times rye can just ride roughshod over any fruit that's in there, and there's enough fruit. We incorporate enough components to bring the fruit, so there's a fruit spice balance neat, but it's in the scale of spice in my mind. Like when you taste the neat pour, it's spicy, right? It is spice driven. The second you add water, the mouth watering, the sort of like cantaloupe effect of this whiskey, where it's just like, oh my God, this is so juicy, just erupts, and it erupts both flavor wise and texturally, which is why, and maybe it's just that I have a fascination with what water can do to whiskey. Like a lot of times you add water to whiskey and you're like, it diluted the flavors and made it easier to drink, but there wasn't that much of a change. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, you wanted this to be less hot, so you added water because it's too hot. And it's like, is the water really improving the whiskey, or is the water just lessening the negative effects of the high proof of the whiskey? And I don't think this whiskey doesn't need water from a hotness standpoint at all, right? Like this isn't a whiskey where you drink it and you're like, wow, it's too ethanol-y or it's too hot. Not at all. But what water can do is just open up a whiskey. And usually when we talk about that, we talk about it from a fruit note standpoint. And I just think the fruit notes on this, when you add water, are just ridiculous. Which is why I just think they explode.
I'm getting so much more on the neat pour.
I just went about halfway to your manager's proof, because
halfway to Heather.
One drop is 0.05 mils. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Way less.
What?
Way less, dude. Okay, that's what
I thought.
Okay, we can't actually see this. So
no, I can see it. I can see where the level is.
This is a water dropper. So a half full water dropper is half an ml, 0.5 ml, which means like one drop is like 0.05 ml.
Keep going. Drop them. We're watching live.
Okay, so watch this. So let's do this, because people ask me this all the time. All right, so this is we're at 0.5 right now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 drops. So 10 drops is half an ml.
That's exactly what I said. 0.05.
What's a lot?
Is
Did
one
you say
drop.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you said 0.5. I'm
No,
an
you're good.
asshole.
No. I'm so glad that
0.05.
we worked.
Good,
I'm
good,
so
good,
glad
good,
that
good.
we
I
worked
totally
this
agree.
out.
0.05. I thought you said 0.5. This happens to me all the time. People are like, well, I put one drop in, which is 1 ml. And I'm like, 1 ml is literally an entire water dropper of fucking
Wow.
liquid.
Oh, that's great. No. You're good. I'm
No,
glad we
go,
worked this
go.
out.
Okay, good. Go. Continue.
I think maybe my preferred proof might be somewhere between neat and yours. No, actually, oh man, I can't believe I almost forgot this. I've got a hilarious little toy here that is a proofometer here. I don't know if you're familiar
Anton
with this
Parr.
little guy.
Yes.
But yeah. So I've never done like repeatedly on episodes we've said like, I wonder what adding a couple drops really does to the proof, you know? So what I did is I had a 25 mil pour, so half of 50, 25. I put about 11 drops in there, which should be pretty close to what your manager's proof is. And my neat pour registered 57.6%. And my
Son of a
manager's
gun. Sue us.
No, I think you're legally allowed a certain window.
Within
You're good.
0.3. Yeah.
The manager's proof with friggin'
Lies.
11 drops in there was
Oh, wow.
57.4. It was only 0.2% difference with 11
What?
drops.
Dude, this is one of the funniest things, because sometimes we'll be like, yo, put like 10 drops in, and people are like, yo, you're ruining the cast strength.
Yeah,
And
you're
it's
turning
like,
it into water.
it's like, yo, we've changed it by, do you know how much water you have to put into like
Yeah, well, I do now, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, despite the fact that it is just the smidges of proof difference, I might be somewhere in the middle, because I did only just like a couple drops in a anyway, I think I threaded it about halfway through here. I still get the amount of spice that I like. I still get the amount of fruit that I like. I think everything's kind of a little more in balance for what I like. So I might be halfway to you.
So I want to I talked about, and I made a bold statement at the beginning of this where I was like, hey, making Snow Day was basically just the blending team flexing. I don't want to just, especially on a podcast where people can't like see it visually. I don't want to get too into the percentages, but effectively what we did with this whiskey was we wanted to, I think even with the rye component that we had, we really wanted to shape the rye component. And this is something that we've gotten a lot better at. So if you think about it this way, right, we basically are taking building blocks. When we're blending, we're taking building blocks and we're assembling them into some sort of blend, right? And what we've gotten good at is basically taking building blocks, further maturing them to actually, instead of just making it a done blend, just basically doing that to improve the component, like basically get ourselves, it's almost a halfway point for where we want the whiskey. And so when people get their bottle, one of the funny things they're going to see is they're going to see 10-year rye, 20-year rye, 22-year corn, 15-year corn. Sorry, 10-year rye, 20-year rye, 22-year rye, 15-year corn, 20-year corn, 22-year corn. They're going to be
Where's
like,
the 26?
Where's the 26? Right. So effectively what we did was we made a core blend. We further matured that blend in port and new wood, blended it all together, and then that represented 89% roughly of the whiskey. And then we actually took a bunch of other whiskeys and blended those in with that portion. And a lot of that was shaping the rye. And it basically was like, this rye is great, but it's not nearly where we need it to be. So combining it with corn, further maturing it in port, further maturing it in new wood, we then used 29 out of the 37 barrels that we further matured, put those together, use that as like a foundation stone, and then we added to it. And this, Brian, is why we didn't turn into a rye. Because when we got to that point, it was a little drier than we wanted it to be. It was and it just didn't have the full spectrum of fruit that we wanted. And that's why we dipped into the Peregrine cask, the Peregrine cognac cask, and the Goldfinch. And anybody who
Can I ask
had Goldfinch.
quick question on that?
Right.
No, you finish though. Anybody who hasn't had Goldfinch,
Anybody who's had Goldfinch knows that that's like a very bright fruit profile. So if you think about what like rye and port does from a fruit profile, it creates like glendronic, right? It creates like stewed red fruit, like deep, heavy red fruit, which is all of the Christmas profile that Cole keeps talking about, like all of that like heavy port red fruit that we wanted. But we wanted to also balance that dry rye profile that I was talking about earlier. And the best way to do it is with like bright fruits. And I don't know how to describe this in any other way than like think of cherries, strawberries, raspberries, and imagine turning all of those into a jam. That's what port does, right?
Yeah.
And then when I talk about bright fruits, let's talk about like sauternes, which is what Goldfinch is, right? Like you're thinking about like golden raisins, like white grapes, melon, like I always think of these as white fruits. That's white fruits for me. That's red fruits for me. Sauternes, white fruits. Cognac is actually what I call orchard fruits, which is generally for me is like pears, all the different types of apples, peaches, plums, right? These juicier versions of fruit notes that have some citrus profile, but it's dialed back. And this is how I think of, and I don't know why it's always spatial for me, but this is anybody who's listening to the podcast doesn't see me moving all my hands around like
a lot of
mime
movement
in Paris. But basically, like I think about when I think about fruit notes, I really categorize them based on how juicy they are, how citrus they are, and how dark they are. Dark is always like bleeding blood red cherry,
like a prune.
And I don't understand why. I'll never understand why. But when I think of like blood red fruits, I think of Louisiana. I don't get it. I've never understood why that place
so
and
awesome,
state
though.
resonates with me.
Yeah.
But I just think of like, I went on this bachelor party. God, we're getting off track here. But
bring it on.
I went to this bachelor party, and it was with the partiest animals of party animals and we went to New Orleans for this thing, and we stayed in the French district, and we were having a great time. And then I just got into my sort of like, I've had 6 whiskeys and I want to be alone kind of mood. And I wandered off, and there was this woman who was singing, which is just the most unbelievable voice. And she was this Louisiana, it's New Orleans, where it's like every corner has the best musician you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I literally remember walking in and had those old school booths, and I just sat down in the booth, and I had a whiskey. I had a Manhattan. I had a really good Manhattan, and I sat and listened to this woman sing just the most like sultry New Orleans sort of jazz, beautiful voice. And that vibe to me is red fruit. I don't
Nice.
know why. It's like red fruit and brown sugar. Like red, like
Someone's
just like,
red tasting whiskey by Lou Bryson.
Yeah, like so that's what I think about port. And then these like bright fruits. And so when we added the 6.9% of this whiskey is Goldfinch casks, and then like 1% of this whiskey is a Peregrine cognac cask from First Flight. We were trying to just flesh out the fruit profile in balance with the rye.
Yeah,
it's like the most long-winded description I've ever made. But go ahead, Brian.
No, you're good. And I'm so glad I didn't actually end up interrupting you earlier. But what I was getting at back then was, tell me about that I want to know the Peregrine cask, and I want to know specifically, so that was a Peregrine cognac cask. So that wasn't Final Peregrine. That was one casking type of the Final Peregrine blend, correct?
Yeah. So basically, we made Peregrine, we put it in cognac and New American Oak, and we pulled one of the cognac casks just from a balance standpoint.
Yeah.
We do this all. We now do this all the time, and we're going to continue to do it. I've got 8 snow day casts to play with, right? Like it was
For
just
future or whatever.
yeah, and it's just about like we're always just fine tuning as much as possible. And it's like, how do we get this thing perfect? And then once we have it, the other casks, it's less about like. Let me put this. Let me be very clear. I have removed a cask from a high altitude collection because the cask has gone completely haywire.
Pigeon. Yeah. It's
Right.
the pigeon
Yeah.
cask.
It's bad. Right. Like this happens. This is particularly the reality of buying real casks from Europe. And I could go on like a 10-hour tangent about this, but like we buy actual finished casks. I'm not talking about fucking sherry seasoned casks where they take American oak, they throw a little bit of sherry in it, and that cask never even made its way to Spain. I'm talking like, do you know how goddamn expensive and tiresome it is to get real casks from Europe? And they age so inconsistently, and everything about it is the biggest pain in the ass. But the reality is that when it works, mother of God, is the whiskey good. And it's just
Nice,
like,
yeah.
That's great.
Do you have the stomach to throw out 25 casks and $30,000 every once in a while? Most companies don't. We do because we own the company, fuckers.
Yeah.
So basically, like that's the reality. But
Yeah.
so there are casks that we literally remove from high altitude collection because they're bad. But we also have a bunch of casks that we remove from high altitude collection releases and other releases we've done simply because like we don't want that much cognac, or we don't want that much new wood, or we don't want that much whatever it is. And so we pull it, and then the cask is like, then we have to find a home for it, or we don't. We just like to find a home for it when it makes whiskey better.
That kind of plays into another question I had. And this is, I will fully admit to the ridiculousness of this question, but the Peregrine cask made 1% of the blend. The bottle outrun for this is 8,256 bottles. 1% of that is 82 bottles, which equates to 16 gallons. So did that Peregrine cognac cask only have 16 gallons in it? Or did you only use 16 gallons of that Peregrine cognac cask?
The latter.
Nice.
All the time. The latter. Do you know how many fucking carboys I have? No one's even heard of carboy. Carboy
actually, tell me what.
Carboy is a nickname.
It's a small little.
It's a 15-gallon tank. Do you know how small and goofy a 15-gallon tank is? Do you know how many of these I have? I literally had a decision today, and I'm not going to say which whiskey it is because that's a whole nother podcast. But legitimately, we were doing exactly this, and we were combining components, and I had 3 gallons left of something. And it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll put it in a carboy, which means we have 3 gallons of liquid sitting around with 12 gallons of headspace, which means that component is completely fucked. No, it's not actually. It's just going to oxidize like crazy.
In like a matter of like a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm. And
so you got to figure out what to do with that real quick, right?
No, we don't. You know why? Because we make good whiskey. No, because I don't care. Like this is I think like what's interesting about Found North is that we just simply behave differently from a lot of companies. And you really did an amazing job, Brian and Cole, getting into this with Zach and digging into like how we think about whiskey and how we think about scaling. And I think for us, like the fundamental sort of what we we were sitting around the other day and we were saying, if you wanted to describe the ethos of Found North in one sentence, what would it be? And I hate that question because I don't feel like you can capture what we try to do in one sentence. But I ended up saying, make excellent whiskey thoughtfully. That was it, right? Like be thoughtful and make excellent whiskey, or make excellent whiskey thoughtfully. And for us, like the first piece of that, just make excellent whiskey. It trumps everything. It trumps everything all the time. So if we have 3,000, if we have, 3,000 bottles of something, and that's what's perfect, and that causes us to have these odds and ends that we either use or just sit in a tank indefinitely and never get used. Like, I don't lose sleep over that because it's about making excellent whiskey. And, if we get 3 gallons of this and 7 gallons of that, like occasionally it becomes the sprinkling of flavor that we add to a whiskey. And occasionally it sits indefinitely.
Yeah. So tell me, why isn't this just batch 12?
I think a couple reasons. Yeah, this is a great question. I think a couple reasons. One is that for us, like, this whiskey had I know we didn't talk a lot about this to you guys and just to really pull the curtains back. Like, we did media for this very differently. And media is a really hard thing for us. You want to talk about like thinking too much about things? We agonize over how we do media, because in one way, like, I think most people think about media as being a very commercial thing. It's like, oh, you share it with people because you want people to buy your shit, right? Like, that's how I think a lot of people view the way that companies view media, which I think is actually accurate for a lot of companies. It's like, we send this out because we want to build hype. And it's not really how we view media, first of all. And I think second of all, like, we care about the bigger picture of Found North, in terms of, when we started, we were like, hey, we're going to make a release, and each release is going to be a chapter of Found North, right? And this is a cliche that a lot of brands use, but it's real, and that's why it's a cliche. And it's like, hey, this is batch 1, this is batch 2, this is batch 3, this is batch 4. And then we made the high altitude collection, but even within that, it was like, we want you to, each one of these is a slice of Found North. It's a slice of the life of Found North. And the way we generally view our media partners is, these are people who do 2 things with us. One, they are really good at pulling out the narrative, like this conversation we've had today. And 2, they validate what we're saying. Like, why is somebody going to believe what we say about the whiskey versus what Brian's saying or Cole's saying? Like, I get that piece of this, and that's real, and people are spending real money on this. And so we really think about that a lot. And one of the things we were thinking about is, like, how do we share this conversation with our media partners? And what we were trying to do with our media partners is really talk about the whiskey. But the other thing that we're doing in here is we're selling this very differently than how we've sold whiskey in the past. I like that sound.
A ting.
Yeah. You need to clean up over there.
No.
So much whiskey glasses.
In these things, I've actually dumped entire whiskeys in my lap. So,
that happened on our
2
last
episode
episode.
Yeah, was it the most?
That sounds right. Yeah. So one of the things that we're really focused on is, like, with this release, is how we're selling it. And I think with Found North, when we started, like, you could buy us on the shelves. And I know everybody's like, oh, I remember when you could buy on the shelf. Like, I get it. Like, right. Like, but for a while, like, Found North was available. It was available online. Our website just had batch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 available online, and you could just buy it. And that's how we viewed ourselves. We were like, we're going to be a brand that if you're into Found North, you can just buy a bottle of Found North.
Yeah.
Period. And we created a lottery system that is how we generally sell Found North now, because we sold Peregrine 1 and it sold out in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was never the intention of this brand at all. Like, the intention of this brand was, and I can't stress that enough. Like, so many whiskey brands create a false sense of scarcity.
Yeah.
And the idea for us wasn't like, hey, let's make this whiskey inaccessible. Let's make our whiskey inaccessible because that'll make people crazy about it. It was the opposite. The whole thing about Found North was like, whiskey making is an exploratory process. Like, the whole vibe of the topographical map. It was like, the way we see ourselves as whiskey makers is people that are walking into an unknown forest and carving a path and seeing where they end up. That's like, I know it's traumatized, but like, that's when I'm making whiskey with Sammy, like, I'm genuinely thinking about it that way. When we're blending whiskey, I put a blindfold on, noise canceling headphones, and I listen to classical music, and then I blend whiskey.
Nice.
I mean, I literally am just trying to do sensory deprivation and get as into the whiskey as I possibly can. And it was to share that. Like, we wanted to share that experience with people who fucking love whiskey. And we knew, by the way, when we were selling Canadian whiskey, we didn't think there would be a market for our whiskey. Like, we literally made batch 2 being like, no one's going to fucking buy this. Like, we were the biggest whiskey losers you've ever met. We were sitting there being like, we're going to make a whiskey that we genuinely don't think is saleable. How stupid is that from a commercial standpoint? Like, how dumb is that? You're going to make a whiskey that you don't think will sell. We thought the same thing about batch 5. We're going to sell an 8-year-old Canadian whiskey for $125 a bottle. Do you know how absurd that was when we said it out loud? We were just like, fuck, we're just going to pour it until people buy it. And it was total faith. It was like total faith in liquid over everything. It was just like, look, when people taste it, we're just going to make whiskey that's compelling enough that when people taste it, they literally are just like, I don't really care that it's 8-year Canadian. And it was like, it's 73% 21-year-old whiskey and it's 27% 8-year-old whiskey. I believe what these guys are saying. The liquid's awesome. I'm going to drink this stuff, right? Like, that's how we thought about whiskey. And so we never thought we would be in this situation where it was like, you make something and nobody gets it. And we've gotten to this point with Found North where everything we release is a lottery. And it sucks because the conversation gets away from the liquid and gets into like, did I get it or not?
Right.
Do you know how far away from our intention that is? Like, we didn't get into this business. We got into this business to make great whiskey and to be able to make a living doing it. That's it. Like, and we wanted to make game-changing whiskey. That's what's at. Like, we said that all the time. We wanted to make whiskey that was meaningful, whiskey that people felt was significant. And so I think Snow Day for us, the liquid, how we're selling it and what it is and when we're selling it and all of these pieces is so fundamental to what we want to do, which is why we're not doing a lottery and why we're selling it exclusively to our mailing list.
How we're selling it. I don't think we've said how you're selling it yet. Get into that.
So when we sell whiskey, we sell a portion of it to our mailing list. We sell a portion of it via an online lottery system. And to be absolutely as clear as possible, we created that system to eliminate flippers, people who were just buying our shit to sell it on secondary, to get rid of fraud, which is actually a shocking amount of fraud. And to basically be able to control for, hey, we're going to try to sell one bottle to one person at a time. And that's why we created the lottery system, and to get rid of the click race, because we had so many people who, when we sold Peregrine, it was like, I was ready for your release. I was really excited for it.
I was pretty good at that. Yeah.
And I didn't get it. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
So that was the point of creating the lottery. The unintended consequence of the lottery is when you call something a lottery, and we've literally started to be like, could we call it a ballot? Can we call it something else? Is it creates this sense of like gambling of like, am I going to get it or not? And the conversation for our releases has become so much about like, did I get it or not? Found North, I think, became popular because we make good whiskey.
Yeah.
Right? Like, such a silly thing to say, but like, I think we make good whiskey. I think we make whiskey that is worth following.
Yeah.
That's it. Right? Like, I think we make whiskey that's worth it. That's worth the hobby. That's worth the time and the money, right? Like, it's not, I get it, dude. Whiskey, the chase is fun for whiskey. And BTAC can do that all they want. Like, the chase is fun for whiskey. You can make whiskey about the hunt. And anybody who's about the hunt, and if you like Found North because of the hunt, like, you're making it possible for us to make whiskey. And thank you. I love you. You know, don't get me wrong. But we didn't make whiskey for the hunt. We never made whiskey for the hunt. We made whiskey because we want to make really great whiskey. And so with Snow Day, we just decided, how do you deal with the fact that at retail and even online, we have many X as many customers as we have bottles? And it was like, since the beginning of Found North, we've promoted joining our mailing list. And that's not perfect. It's not a perfect way of like bifurcating our customer base, but like, we have promoted like, stay in communication with us. We email you. This is how we do this. Like, stay in touch with us via the mailing list. And so we just decided, it was like, if we could only make a celebratory whiskey for one cohort of consumers, which is all we're capable of doing at the moment, who would we make it for? Who gets it? And it's our mailing list. And it's not perfect, but the idea was, let's just release a Found North. Let's just release a Found North that you can fucking buy and drink and not be like, I gotta wait until my sister's cousin gets married so I can crack this. It's like, let's just make a whiskey that embodies like the holiday season, the sharing aspect of whiskey, the flavor of whiskey, what winter means to us, and who we love making whiskey for. And we love making whiskey for people who love Found North. And that's the best we could do.
Yeah. So now cut to the chase here. I am a guy listening to this show and I'm like, tell me how to buy it. How do I purchase this whiskey?
If you're on the mailing list, it's yours. Period. Like,
okay, wait. So and the very first thing I thought of is that means that there's less than 8,400 and whatever people on your mailing list, correct?
No, but we have but we've done this enough where we know how many people sign up for our lotteries. We know we are 98% confident. I will say this, and I'll say this right now. And by the way, people are going to hear this before, like, they're going to hear this during the buying window of Snow Day. So I will say this with absolute confidence. If by some chance, so there are 8,256 bottles available for sale. If 10,000 people on our mailing list, which we have more than 10,000 people on our mailing list, if 10,000 people on our mailing list sign up to buy a bottle of this, we will run an internal lottery. the 1,744 people who do not get a bottle will be given a Found North golden ticket.
Oh, cool.
The Found North golden ticket will be, you get to bypass any lottery we ever do ever again. And you just get to say, I want this one, and you get this one. That's
a
how we're dealing
fun
with this.
idea. Where'd you get that idea from? I've never heard of that before.
You know what my brother was talking about? How we fucking agonize over every little thing. We think there is a 98% chance that every person on our mailing list who wants a bottle will get a bottle. It's still going to be $110. It's still going to have shipping. So whatever that makes it, $125, $130 a bottle. Like, it's still an expensive bottle of whiskey. We study our numbers. We feel really confident that everyone who wants one's going to get a bottle. It is not going to be first come, first serve. If we have 9,000 orders, we are going to internally do a lottery, and the 700 odd people who don't get a bottle will get a golden ticket. And we just sat here and we said, how do we do this so that it's not a lottery? How do we do this so that if you've been following along with Found North, if you've signed up for our communications, if you pay attention and care about Found North, how do we make a whiskey that you can get a bottle for?
Yeah.
And this is the best way to do it. And we said, okay, what are the different outcomes, right? Like, because we can sit here and say, this is what's going to happen. But the reality is, like, we don't actually know exactly what's going to happen, right? We don't know. We have enough data. We have a guess as to what's going to happen. That being said, in my mind, there are basically three outcomes. Outcome number one is 10,000 people on our mailing list want a bottle, and we have to give out a bunch of golden tickets. I think that's very unlikely to happen. Outcome number two is that we have some number of people who want a bottle that's less than 82,256. But we are giving everybody on our mailing list an option to buy two, or to enter to buy two.
Yeah.
And this is another thing for us, which is like, do you know how many emails I get who are from people who are like, I got my bottle of such and such, and this wedding happened, and I opened Hell Diver First Flight. And I'm like, we fucking released that 2 years ago. You've been sitting on this bottle. Like, I get that. That's cool. We talked about this earlier. Like, I have bottles that I've put away.
Right.
My wife and I went to Graham's Porthouse and bought, a vintage, 3 bottles of a vintage of port from our first date. And we put those away, and it's like 10-year, 25-year, 50-year. We're ambitious. But like, I get the celebratory thing. But the point of Found North wasn't to make every fucking release be something that you had to wait for a special occasion. We want you to drink these things. We want you to drink our whiskey. We made this whiskey to be consumed, And so for some people, buying a second bottle makes that possible. So option number two is that we're going to give everybody who's on the mailing list an opportunity to buy 2 bottles if we have them. And this is what I think is going to happen, which is we're going to have a number of people who buy 1, more people want 2 than we have. We're going to have to basically run an internal lottery and say, this cohort of people get 2. We're going to say, thank you very much to the people who said, I want 2 and didn't get them. You get 1. And then that's what's going to happen. The last outcome is that everybody who wants 1 gets 1, and everybody who wants 2 gets 2. And we'll create a waiting list for people who are like, fuck, I heard about this. I've never heard of Found North. And hopefully we can take care of some of those people, and we'll all have a wonderful holiday. But that's the reality of this, is like, we actually don't know. And by the way, do you know how much of a clusterfuck this is for our partners commercially? They're like, wait a second, you want people to be able to buy 2 or 1, but then some people who don't get 2 aren't going to get 2. How do you want us to, you're going to have 1,000 people that you're going to disappoint? Like, how do you want us to communicate those people? Like, we've spent weeks on this. We've spent so many hours making this work, but we wanted to make a celebratory whiskey. We wanted to make a holiday whiskey. We wanted to make a winter whiskey that that people could buy and just open and enjoy and be like, this is a chapter in the life of Found North that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome.
There you go.
My question earlier though, I said why isn't this just batch 12? Makes me wonder if there's intentionality behind starting a new thing where there might be future releases of this that pay homage to an original batch 1. Or say, well, maybe not every, but most distilleries have some sort of experimental line. I know you guys really hammed up the idea of like, we just let Sammy and the team go nuts. Like, is Snow Day your go nuts line? Do you have any plan around that at all?
Years of conversations about this.
Yeah.
And we have names for an experimental collection that we have internally floated back and forth and been like, well, we could call it this and do this and that. I think for us, you were asking about all right, I'll answer it in two parts. One part is like the collection aspect of this, and one part of this is the sales aspect of Found North. And I think
Mhm.
from a collection standpoint, for us, it's really important that the batches be about blending components that we've been working with. Does that mean we'll never, like batch 11, we threw in a Peregrine New Wood cask because it helped the whiskey? I think it's more about less about like being hyper rigid with process. It's about, here's a batch. You can expect it to be less about the wood finish and more about the blending that Found North does. And then here's a bird, here's a high altitude collection. And this is really about this process of blend, finish, reblend. And again, I care a little less about I care a little bit less about being hyper stringent on that process and being like, we'll never do anything else for either. We don't adhere to bottled and bond or something. Like any of these designations we create, it's about helping our customer understand what we're doing more so than like we have to follow exactly this process to make good whiskey. Making good whiskey will always trump process. But we also understand like to follow along with the narrative of Found North, you have to a little bit understand what the fuck we're doing, right? Like you have to, and categorization helps with that. It helps to be able to be like, okay, what's a batch? A batch is us taking components that we've been working with for a long time and blending them together to create some final piece. What is a high altitude collection? High altitude collection is about focusing on a finishing type or a finishing regimen, creating a blend that will use that finishing regimen well, further maturing it, and then finishing it via blending, because we are a
Yeah.
blending house more than anything else. These are the two major ways in which we make whiskey. These will continue to be the two major ways in which we make whiskey. But there's all this space in between. And does that need to like fit into a category? I don't know. I don't think so. I think for us, it was just like, we wanted to make something high rye. We wanted to shape this rye component as best we could. And then we wanted it to taste exactly how we wanted it to taste. So we used the best tools that we had. And does that need to have some sort of designation or category? No, it's just delicious. And that was what we were trying to do. We're trying to make a really delicious, very holiday winter rye forward whiskey, and then we were just trying to make it taste as good as humanly possible, and that's how we made Snow Day. And I don't want to put it into a box, you know what I mean? Like that's just what Snow Day is.
Now, I will argue a little bit that
Go ahead.
you did kind of put it into a box by putting First Flurry on the back.
So it's just so fun, right? Like First Flurry
It
just
really
so
is though.
fun.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? Like, will we make a second Flurry?
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Probably. Like,
Okay.
will we make it next year? Maybe. Will we make it 3 years from now? Maybe. I think we I think we so many companies count on customers to be repeat buyers of things. This gets back to the sales aspect of this, which you were getting into, which is like
Yeah.
so many companies count on companies count on brand awareness to drive sales. It's like, oh, they came out with whiskey such and such of whiskey such and such category. I'm just going to buy it. And I get that. And that makes sense. But for us, like, it's a very commercially driven process. That's a very commercially driven mentality.
Yeah.
And this is why when you were asking about like how we think about whiskey from a sales perspective, like will we make a shelfer? And Zach really got into this well. But I think for us, diversifying how Found North is available is something we're really interested in. Whether that means we make, more mailing list exclusives, regardless of what they are, like, yeah, that's interesting to us because it deprioritizes the rareness of the whiskey and emphasizes the buy-in of Found North. We did a 10 whiskey tasting with you guys, right? Like
Yeah.
we went through
Right.
whatever it was, or 10 or 11 whiskeys. You've since tasted every whiskey we've made. I don't mean this in a from a perspective of like, I don't mean to be arrogant, but have any of those whiskeys been bad? Bad. No, I'm not saying like, look, like you like some of our whiskeys better than you like other whiskeys.
Yeah,
But
right.
you're somebody who tastes whiskey all the time. This is whiskey. It's probably whiskey number 17 you've had from Found North. This is our 17th main release.
Yeah.
Have we released a bad whiskey?
Yeah.
Like, have we released some
Definitively.
whiskeys that you like better than others? Yes. But have we
Of course.
released a bad whiskey?
Yeah. No, you absolutely have not. Yeah.
We haven't released a bad whiskey. I don't think we've released anything that's not a good whiskey. And so there's a degree to which this whole fucking scarcity narrative drives me insane. Because it's like, oh, did I get this whiskey or not? It's like, is that what makes it good? So if we made something that we put on our website and it wasn't like a mailing list thing, it wasn't always available. We just were like, here's Found North topo map. I'm the worst at naming things, and I just tried to name something and it was terrible. Like, here's Found North Aurora, right? Actually, that's a great fucking name. Named a whiskey after my daughter. Here's Found North Aurora, and we're not telling you how you have to buy it. We're literally just putting this on the website. Like, we wouldn't do that if the whiskey wasn't exceptional. But one reason we might do that is just to be like, there are different ways to get Found North, and we don't want it always. Will we do a retail exclusive? Hell yes. Will we do a bar exclusive? Hell yes. Right? Where it's just like I'm interested in all of those things because it gets a little bit away from like how you got Found North and just what is the whiskey, right? And finding a way to celebrate our partners, both from a consumer standpoint and from a sales standpoint, and the whiskey. And that's more of what we're focused on. And I think Snow Day, it's not about like, we're always going to make the whiskey the same way. It's more about, can we make something that's really exciting and can we sell it in a different way that's a little bit more intimate with the people who've been following along with everything we've been doing?
Yeah, that's fair. The if you had to kind of imagine what a future release of Snow Day might be like would it seems like it needs to be a little whimsical, a little magical, a lot of passion went into it. Like, is that kind of where your head's at for a potential future release?
I wish we had still had Zach. This is such a Zach question.
Nice.
Yeah, totally. Yes. That's how I think about it. I mean, that's totally how I think about it.
That's fair. I
Does it have
realize.
to
I
follow
realize.
like a very specific regimen? Probably not. But you know what I mean?
Well,
Like it
that's
doesn't
kind
have
of
to be.
honestly, that sounds like the idea behind this is that it doesn't. If it followed a specific regimen, if it followed your specific regimen, you would have called it batch 12. So it does to me, from an outsider perspective, it seems like this is your that snow day appears to be, from an outsider's perspective, something that you're just purely passionately doing what you want to do with this.
I think the interesting thing is, and the question that we've asked internally, and the question that I don't have an exact answer to, is does a batch always have to be more akin to bourbon than our other releases? If you've had a high altitude, like if you've had a high altitude collection, if you had the most recent Goldfinch, like yes, it's 91% corn, 8% rye, 1% malted barley, but it might be bourbon adjacent, but it's kind of living in its own plane, right? Like if you had batch 11 recently, you're like, whoa, I don't know if Found North could make a Canadian whiskey taste so much like bourbon. You know what I mean? Like there's a degree to which, and even with batch 10 and batch 5, where they're wheaters, where they're like wheat driven and the secondary grain is wheat, it's very adjacent to bourbon. And that's not what batch 1 and batch 3 were, which were obviously rye. But we haven't made a straight rye batch like that in a long time. Would we? Maybe. I mean, I might if I had the right liquid, and I'd never rule it out. But I think an interesting question for us is like, do batches have to taste like bourbon or be really reminiscent of bourbon? And I don't know what the answer is to that. And like that's me being honest. I think like so
Yeah.
many brands always are like, this is the vision and this is us and this is our identity, and it's not amorphous at all and it never changes. And Found North is the fucking opposite to that. We don't think about ourselves, and we don't think about whiskey as this like groove in the road that has to roll the same way all the time. And Snow Day is the epitome of that. Even and so like I'm reticent to stick it into to pigeonhole it into some cubby
Right.
and say this is what it's going to be and this is what we're going to make from now on.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of the opposite of that. It's like we wanted something rye heavy. Our intention originally was to make this a rye, but in the end, we went in the direction of how good can we make this whiskey and what does that require, and that sort of trumped everything.
Yeah. Nice. I yeah, appreciate all the insight and everything. And by the way, yeah, Cole had to drop little family stuff going on, but
I got that vibe.
yeah, I know. Yeah, 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 a lot of muting going on for him.
I know,
towards the
and
end.
we lost Zach, we lost Cole. It's just me and
I
you,
know.
man. Just the
Well,
way you and I always wanted it.
I know. Yeah, right. Still filtered too. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Nick and
no,
Brian just going at it.
yeah, I love it, dude. But I'll be honest, dude, I stayed up way too late last night and I had just a million questions. And my intention is never to just run through these and just ask you like question after question. Like I love when we just roll into stuff as we have today. But frankly, I think we've hit it all. And especially with all the specifics on Snow Day towards the end, it sounds to me like the definitive deal with how to get this bottle is, if you're on the mailing list, you got an email on Tuesday morning. Hopefully you're listening to this on Tuesday morning and you got an email from Found North that says,
and you have a window to buy it.
Click here
Yeah.
to buy now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be I think there's a possibility that you get an email and it says, this is what we're doing and this is what the product is. And tomorrow you're going to get a link to buy, because
Cool.
there's like, you want to really see how the sausage is made. We're in conversations about literally right now, right? Everybody's going to hear this a week from now or whatever it is. But like literally right now, we're having conversations about there are three pieces to this conversation. It's one, why is this mailing list only? Why is this dip being sold differently from everything else we see? Because we get a lot of positive feedback about lotteries. So it's going to be like, why are you doing this differently? Two, what the hell is the product, right? And three, how can I buy it? And those are three pieces. And if they all went in one email, which we're thinking about, it's just a lot of explanation, right? Like
I'm gonna on my phone, I get to the bottom and I have to click view entire message to read the rest.
Totally, right? You're gonna basically be like sitting there, and your partner's gonna be like, what are you reading? You've been reading this for the last 18 minutes. And it's like,
And
shut
you've
up.
been,
Found North is
you've
doing
been,
something different, and
you've
I
been
don't want that,
salivating
right?
nonstop. What's going on there? You're just drooling
No,
all over
I
your
hope that's a
shirt.
reaction. No. But the reality is like, it's just a complicated, it's the nuts and bolts behind how something like this gets released. You couldn't imagine how much time it takes to do it well. So that's definitely it's going to be something like that though. The reality is if you are on the mailing list, you're going to get a window to buy one bottle. You're going to have the option to opt into two if they're available. And if you're not on the mailing list, you're probably going to be stuck on a waiting list. And hopefully, I guess not hopefully. I have no idea. Like, what do I want? I don't know. I think I want some people who are new to get bottles. But what's really special to me is the idea of people feeling comfortable getting a bottle of this and opening it. You know, there's something really magical about drinking whiskey in December.
Dude,
Like
sure.
there's just something really
Especially when the
special about
fire
drinking
pit.
whiskey.
The first things you said about this was if you have a fire pit, this is your fire pit whiskey. And that's
This is
like,
your fire pit whiskey.
a lot of times, literally every episode, we always have a question that we ask, like what whiskey would you choose if you were blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And annually we have the fire pit whiskey question. This year, what are you drinking around the fire pit? And so obviously that's what this is this year.
I like the question, what is the perfect circumstance to drink this whiskey? Right? So rather than setting the circumstances, what is the perfect circumstance to drink Found North? I think if you got, okay, ready for really melodramatic? I'm going to create the most melodramatic circumstance to drink this
I've
whiskey.
read your whiskey tasting notes. You can get as melodramatic as you want.
Let's go. Okay, ready? We're going to take this as far, and then I do want to take 2 seconds to just describe what we were doing from a flavor standpoint to why this makes sense. But like, all right, this is me we're 2.5 hours in and I'm going way out on a limb. You ready for this? The perfect circumstance for this whiskey is you were hiking through the snowy mountains and you got lost and it is cold, snowy. You've got just the right stuff you need you got a fire starter and a little bit of fuel, and you're going to start a fire in the middle of the night and hope somebody finds you because like God save you. And you want to drink maybe your last whiskey ever. I want it to be snow day.
I love it.
It's going to be warming. It's going to be nostalgic. You're gonna sit there and drink it and think about why you want to be rescued tomorrow. Why your hope is that in the morning the helicopter lands and picks you up and takes you back to your loved ones. And you're gonna have no reason not to fucking drink it, right? Like there's no I'm saving this for tomorrow. It's like I'm drinking this tonight and hoping I'm saved tomorrow. That's snow day, and that's what's in the bottle. No, that's as melodramatic as I can get from a purely like flavor standpoint. There were two themes in this whiskey. I talk about this a lot now, which is basically like flavor harmonies. And I think like if you think about what making whiskey is, it's about assembling flavors in a way where the combination of two flavors basically playing at the same time are greater than the sum of its parts, right? Like that's the whole point of blending. my cheesy analogy that I always use is like apples and peanut butter, right? Like apples are great, peanut butter is great, but apples and peanut butter is magnificent. Why?
Yeah.
Because there's basically like sweet and acid in your fruit, in your apple, and there's fat and salt in your peanut butter. And so the combination is perfect, where like the two put together is magnificent. So what we did with this whiskey from a rye standpoint, because this is all about the rye. This is all about the rye. Rye has two primary qualities to it. It has baking spice quality, and it has that herbal, earthy quality that we're talking about that we want to be toned down. But there are basically two major harmonies in this whiskey. The first and the dominant one, and the one that's really obvious, is the baking spice plus the like vanilla caramel that you get from New Wood, right? It's basically like taking like creamy fat sweet and blending it with baking spice, not just like spice, but like cinnamon, right? You think about ice cream and cinnamon, you think about cinnamon sugar, you think about caramel and we talked already about this, like graham crackers, right? It's basically like this like delicious, chewy, fatty, sweet with the spice, with the baking spice. But there's a different side of spice. And there's that, I hate saying this because so many people are like, I don't like black pepper. If you say black pepper, it's not black, I'm not going to drink it. But it's that like black pepper, herbal, earthy quality that spice can have, combined with fruit. And fruit is the only thing that will balance that out, right? You think about when absolutely epic ryes are released, they have some combination of like white tea, like an herbal white tea, like an herbaceous spice quality, and fruit. Like, apple blossoms and white tea would be what my overly loquacious ass would write about this whiskey. You know what I mean? But those are the two themes of this whiskey. And when you drink it, the super obvious one is the first one, is that caramel vanilla baking spice. And it is a resonant, like the finish to this whiskey is all of that. And the landing of this whiskey is all of that sort of creamy. But what makes this actually interesting is the underlying harmony, which is that fruit and white tea herbal quality. And I think when you look at what we were trying to do, so much of the first combination is just rye with port, right? It's just like, hey, let's port and New Wood. Let's get a bunch of caramel. Let's get a bunch of vanilla from the New Wood. Let's get a bunch of dark cinnamony fruit out of the port mixed with rye. That's really going to do it. And then there was this underlying quality where we were like, yes, but there is this herbal theme, and we want it to harmonize with something that matches the overall conception of this whiskey. And that's where Goldfinch and Peregrine casks come in. And that's really why that whiskey is in here with this.
Yeah. Nice. And you mentioned black pepper earlier. Like there's a huge difference between literally only black pepper and pepper on something, like when pepper is being complimentary, it's interesting. But like if you mention pepper as a note and then that person imagines literally only pepper in my mouth right now, they're going to be like,
I think black pepper gets conflated with tannic acid. There you go. I talked about it earlier. It's that sort of burning dry spice that has no counterpart. It just sort of overtakes it, and sometimes it can fool you into being warming, but really it's just kind of a jagged edge, just like a sharp edge in the whiskey. And a lot of people will just say, hey, this is a price that we pay to get all of the rye spice. And for us, it was like, we want this one theme that we get from the rye spice, but actually this this little peppery note, and it combined with this sort of herbal white tea note that you get from rye, especially if it's been well aged. This this has a this has a harmonizing note, and it's all of those sort of white and orchard fruits that I was talking about earlier. Those are the fruit notes that just blend. What is wrong with me with all of this spatial thing? I don't get why I do that.
You're working out over there, man.
Again, like people who can't see as I'm describing the flavors, they all have sort of like a placement in the screen. I don't know why I do this, but I digress. Basically, this like bright orchard, white fruit, orchard fruit quality blends so well. It matches so well with that from both a textural and a flavor standpoint. That slightly herbal rye quality, that those things get in harmony, and they're just this total undertone of this whiskey while you're experiencing the rock band, just like D chord, right? Like rye baking spice with caramel and sugar, like the thing that gets your attention versus the thing that holds your attention.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we'll close it out here, Nick. As we close it out with the hopes. So of course, I'm going to say first, I hope that everyone's on the mailing list, and I hope that I hope that they get this. I hope they purchased this bottle 2 hours and 35 minutes ago, and are now listening to this to validate that purchase. You got any hopes for me, Nick?
Man, I have so many hopes for this whiskey.
Well, you said a couple earlier. You said you hope that if this is the last pour of someone dying on a snowy mountain, that they drink this. So we'll count that one.
I hope they're rescued. No, no. I mean, I think my hope has always been, and my hope will always be, that people appreciate that we love making whiskey because we love making whiskey, but we love making whiskey because we love that people get to drink it. Like there's such a commercial relationship between a producer and a consumer, and we think of it as a love affair. This is just like a really tacky thing to say, but like we don't make whiskey. We don't make whiskey to make money. We're just blessed that we get to make money making whiskey. And really, it's like every whiskey we've made. This is a dark thought that I've had recently. Just like.
But you'll turn it into a hope, right?
Yeah, this is a hope, but this is a dark thought that I had recently, which is like, we make cask strength whiskey and we taste everything we make, which means like I drink hundreds and hundreds of cask strength whiskeys every year, which means like I give a part of my health to this whiskey. I don't drink, and that sounds silly, but I drink almost nothing other than Found North. Not because I'm snobby about Found North. And people all the time are like, what do you drink when you're not drinking whiskey? And it's like, fucking nothing, man. I don't like, I occasionally have a beer. I like having beer when I'm mulching, which I do 4 days a year. Like I like having one beer when I am doing yard work. Like I like having sparkling wine when I'm celebrating. But genuinely, a lot of why I don't drink other things is because I know I can only drink so much. And I invest that drinking capacity into every whiskey we make. And in a way, I'm giving a little bit of my life. So you want to talk about melodrama? Giving a little bit of my life into every whiskey we make. And we don't do things by nose. We taste everything we make. And it's so fun. Don't get me wrong. It's not like woe is me. it's just like there's a piece of my heart and soul in every whiskey we make, and there's a little piece of my life. There's a little piece of my health in every whiskey we make, and that is super intimate for us at Found North. And my hope is that Found North conveys that intimacy and like how important it is to us that this feels celebratory and feels the way we want it to feel. Not just like tastes good. It tastes good. I'm positive about that, but I want it to feel meaningful, right? Like everybody wants their life to be meaningful. We put our lives in this whiskey. We really do. Like
Totally.
I bet my house on this whiskey. I say this all the time. It's a joke. Like I mortgaged my house to buy liquid so that we can make this whiskey. Like if this whiskey doesn't sell, that's why there's like a commercial side of this. If this whiskey doesn't sell, the bank gets my house. No, that's not why I want you to buy my whiskey. We're way past that. Right. I'll be fine. But like, I don't know how. I just think, and this is the whole scarcity thing, right? Like I don't want you to buy this whiskey because you can't get it. I want you to buy this whiskey because you can get it, right? Like I want you to buy this whiskey because like it's an expression of everything that's important to us.
Yeah.
At Found North. It's a total expression of everything that's important to us. And I hope that message gets through. I hope it doesn't sound tacky. I hope it doesn't sound cliche. I know it will to some people. That's okay. But I think we have a lot of people who like, I mean, shit. Time is it? 7:21. That means we've been on for 2 hours and 45 minutes. If you're still listening to this shit, like I think you're my market. I think you're my person. I think you're my person who's like, fuck yeah, Nick gets it. Right? Nick gets whiskey. Yeah, I hope there's one person out there. You know what? That's it. I'm gonna keep this hope. I'm gonna keep this hope small and tight. I hope there's one person out there who opens this bottle of whiskey and goes, "These guys get it. These guys get it."
Right.
That's it.
And
that's it.
Yeah. I love it. I hope everyone loves our 2.5 hour Found North episodes. As
Don't sell it short. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a Found North episode if it's not over 2.5 hours. That's for sure. And I hope that the Found North Aurora release comes out sometime because obviously those two
Aurora
things
Borealis,
go hand
in hand.
fits like perfectly. But anyway. Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. And as always, we hope our love of whiskey lifted your spirits.
We're selling this very differently than how we've sold whiskey in the past. I like that sound.